Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. Intense subject today, girls. We're going to talk about Diddy, abusive men. We're going to use examples, so get ready. Samantha Dragonati, music in the description, linked below. So I'm already exhausted, as you guys can tell by the thumbnail. Chat says Brittany's expression in the thumbnail. You can see she's done with their BS. I am so done today. So we're going to go ahead and tackle this. If you're new to my stream, my name is Brittany Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture. And what I'm going to bring to this story is an ability for us to hopefully learn and gain some wisdom from this situation, to take it into our real lives and do right by the people in our lives, maybe even ourselves. I think there's so many voices, there are so many angles, there are so many stories, but on this channel, we're covering the ethics of the situation, how it impacts society, and then the morals, our relationship with our own values. And so I want us to hold ourselves accountable. In my youth and even my recent past, I do have a tendency to be incredibly open-minded to men's experiences at the expense of, I think, people. And it's also difficult because we're all so human and we all have such strong opinions and we don't get along with everybody and nobody's a perfect victim. And so sometimes we also side with predators because we don't like how the victims are packaged, which is why we went back and reviewed Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, because, you know, after a lot of realizations had to occur for me to realize I had even been swooped up in the branding and the marketing of that case. So, you know, sometimes regardless of how you feel about a victim, we're really focused on the actions of the predator. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a storyline of content today from other abuse stories, as well as an update on the Diddy case from a legal perspective. Then we're going to go into celebrity reactions, and I'm going to end with an interview with one of the jurors. It wasn't a juror that was picked. It was a juror that was basically on standby. And I want you to listen to the way that he tells the story after being in the courtroom and hearing the evidence. And I want us to have the conversation. So as much as Diddy feels so far away from us, I actually think it's pretty close to our real life. I actually think many of us will have to deal with Diddy adjacent people or men in our lives or women in our lives or any gender in our lives that upholds the patriarchy, adheres to the misogyny of it all, and makes excuses for men's bad behavior. It's very difficult. I think, you know, having 8 brothers and being around a lot of boys my whole life, is I see the ways in which my parents have failed them and how they were raised. I also see in which ways society has helped shape them. And I also see in what ways that I myself, you know, in my own deconstruction of gender, have struggled to find what being a healthy man looks like, especially since all the depictions of what good men look like are also men who do really bad things. When I was a younger person, I used to really love Mario Puzo as an author. I used to really love The Godfather as a story. I read it when I was like 15. And I really loved those stories. I loved mafia movies and I loved all that stuff. But the truth is, and I knew it at the time, but I think I love the romanticization of a Armani suit, going to church on Sundays and murdering people on Mondays. There's something about it because they always frame it in protecting your family. And, you know, when you read those books and you realize like there's rape in those books and there's murder in those books and there's so much misogyny in those books, you realize, like, why do I romanticize any form of violence? And I think this is a larger conversation that happens in our adjacent alt communities. You know, I've done kink and BDSM since I was 22. I'm 36. I am a part of like queer communities. We definitely engage in kink and BDSM. And so for Diddy and all these people to say these are freak offs that are just kink parties, there is a conversation to happen over healthy kink and non-healthy kink. You know, I am an SW. I do kink. I'm okay with, you know, I've had multiple partners at the same time. I've been in foursomes. Like, I am not here to sex shame anyone, but I don't want us to be deceived by the framing that this was just consensual freaky sex. Because consensual freaky sex does not also include dragging and abusing your girlfriend through the hallways of a hotel in which you paid off the staff in order for that video never to leak. Okay, that domestic violence doesn't just exist in the relationship, it exists in all facets of that relationship. So if you are in a relationship in which you are committing domestic violence against your partner, it's showing up in your kink, it's showing up in your sex life. And so the narrative that these freak offs are separate from the domestic violence, or at worst, he was just a domestic violence predator or abuser, he wasn't actually a sex trafficker, right? That's the dilemma. And that's what I want to pull apart today, because that's the narrative that basically allowed him to get off on the sex trafficking charges, was that, oh, he might do domestic violence, but he doesn't sex traffic. But if you're abusing your partner, coercing them, using drugs and violence to keep them in line, right? Call it what you want to call it, but it's dangerous. And so whether or not legally he was held accountable for sex trafficking, he was in every way romantically sex trafficking Cassie and the other women in his life, or the other people in his life. I heard even male sex workers were also threatened, that sex workers were hired, which is one of the charges he was held accountable for, prostitution. But see, as a person who wants to decriminalize sex work, it's not that he is being held accountable for the right crime. It's not that he hired a sex worker. It's that he threatened and blackmailed sex workers. It's that allegedly he basically made them participate in drugs and filmed them and used it to blackmail them, right? So again, it's not that he's kinky. It's not that he's BDSM or kink or bisexual or any of those things. It's all of the non-consent part. The non-consent part is kind of the only thing that matters here. And so I'm going to show you a few other predator storylines that we want to talk about, because I think, and I'm already like, it's so frustrating, but this is a good litmus test between you and people in your life. Like, how do you feel about Diddy? Because how do you feel about that video of Diddy dragging Cassie and beating her? How do you feel about the fact that happened just a few years ago? How do you feel about the fact that he came out and apologized and said he's getting good with God? Is that enough for you? Well, it was probably enough for all the people that voted for Trump. Though, of course, because Diddy's black, maybe they decided he's actually a bad guy and Trump's not because Trump's white. Who knows how many layers of excuses people are going to create for their favorite abusers. So why do we make so many excuses for abusers? Okay. So I want to start off with this video. You probably saw it on TikTok. Maybe it was kind of going a little viral, of Chris Brown concert goers. And I know you're thinking, what does it have to do with Diddy? Give me a second. I'm setting us up. Okay. Because I want you to get the energy of what I'm feeling about layman's attitudes towards abusers. And then I want to move us into a summary of the case. And then I want to move us through the story. Okay. So here are the Chris Brown fans going to his concert. Here we go. This is in Glasgow. Mm-hmm.
He was convicted in 2009 of felony assault of his then girlfriend Rihanna.
Yes. No. Yes. I didn't know that.
Did you know he has a restraining order against him by another ex-girlfriend for threats?
No. No, I didn't know that actually.
No. Did you know he has been accused of rapes and further assaults?
Yes, but I've heard that they've banished it. No.
And did you know that he is currently on conditional bail for an alleged bottle attack in London 2 years ago?
I did hear about that, but I think the guy, I read it today, he has actually withdrawn his charges.
Did you know that? You know about that one, yeah?
I knew that one.
And so how does it all make you feel,
I enjoy his music. I think he's an amazing dancer, and what he's done, I think he's paid enough for his problems or whatever, and I just go because I like his concert music, dancing. Yeah, I just find him, and he's pretty cute to look at.
Well, sad obviously, it's horrible, but it's a long time ago, people can change.
I mind my own business, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like his music, that's why I'm here. I've liked his music forever, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I feel like nobody has the perfect relationship behind closed doors, and I feel like because he's in the limelight, he gets a lot more hate for it, and I'm not condoning anything he's done, but Rihanna has done an interview saying they were having a fight, so as far as I'm concerned, we're both as bad as each other, and we're just here for the fights.
Did you know he was
So, in case some of the audio wasn't as clear, she said nobody has a perfect relationship. And Rihanna's done interviews and said they were both having a fight. So, as far as she's concerned, they're both as bad as each other. And we're just here for the vibes. They said, oh, I think he's paid enough and done enough to be held accountable. These are regular people. These are just normal, everyday people. These are your neighbors. This is why I say on a first date, have a list of questions you ask to move, to avoid a second one. This is a good one. How do you feel about Chris Brown? And trust me, do I walk around my house singing, how am I supposed to breathe with no air? Yes. But I do not listen to Chris Brown anymore. It's ruined. Okay? And it should be ruined. Those images of Rihanna will never leave my brain. And every time I think about them, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Okay? I'm good. There's something to be said, though, that this is how regular people think in your everyday life. So who in your everyday life is also okay with this narrative? And you know what's so interesting is like, there's this Andrew Tate narrative too, that even with my brothers and stuff, and thank goodness, I think most of them are pretty off Andrew Tate in that bubble. But I remember when he first came out, before all of the allegations, it was like, he's so cool, he's so real, blah, 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 blah. But now, and that's what I'm curious about, is I haven't asked them, but like, how do you feel about it now? And it's difficult because bad guys don't look like bad guys. They're not scary the way you think bad guys would be scary. Andrew Tate doesn't feel scary to me because he doesn't feel erratic. Erratic is pretty much the only kind of energy that feels very scary to me, unless somebody is actually meaning to do violence. Most people do not feel that scary to me unless they feel very focused in on being violent. And so because of that, I think we often think people can't be violent because they don't feel violent. But often we see erratic behavior as scary because we don't know how to predict the next move. So people think I can be afraid of that. But also we mix erratic behavior in with disability, right? There was a person who was explaining that because of his disability, he has a muscle spasm disability. People think he's like being erratic, but it's just his illness. And I think about that all the time, how we have to learn to deconstruct and in the moment make a decision, a judgment. Is this person just disabled or is this person acting erratic in a sense that I'm in danger? But then we ignore the people who are actually dangerous because they're charismatic. We ignore the fact that Diddy was in the business. He was charismatic, but he was dangerous. But he was dangerous in a way that made us doubt that he could really be this bad of a guy. Right? He's so funny in the movies. His music, him and Ellen. It's like we create a narrative around what dangerous people should look like, the same way we create a narrative around what sadness looks like. It's not a monolithic experience. And so we have to be diligent and we have to think about the ethics around the situation, the morals, the values. Where are these people's lines? And I think that's why I think I've always valued the progressive bubble I was in BDSM, because it was so consent-based. We were sober. Okay, like no drugs versus Diddy's parties. These people are on drugs. Like they said that the sex workers were on so many drugs just to be able to withstand the 3-day length freak offs so they wouldn't process how much pain they were in, right? Like the sex workers were being mistreated as hired work. And so when you think about it from that perspective, it makes me just that much more grateful to exist in a nerd community that is sober, that is about consent, that has checklists, that might get sloppy because people are messy, but genuinely, like we're pretty vigilant about getting predators out of the community. And predators come in all shapes and sizes, right? And so that's what's so disappointing about this whole situation, I think, even from a legal perspective. But the law is so difficult for this reason. It's why victims never feel represented, right? So I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. People are going to be flip-flopping between the legality of it and the morals of it. And on this channel, since we're philosophy through pop culture, we're asking ourselves about our relationship to existence. We're not asking ourselves, like, what would we do if we were lawyers? We're not lawyers. We're people who live in communities. And some people in our community are going to be supportive of Diddy. So here's the BBC talking about the trial from just a recap perspective, just so we're on the same page, and then we'll move on. Okay. So let's watch this together. I'm putting it at 1.2.
In the last few minutes, the jury in the sex trafficking trial of the music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has reached a partial verdict. Our correspondent John Sudworth is in New York. Bring us right up to date, John.
Well, Jane, this is a massive moment in a trial that has lasted 7 weeks, involved more than 30 witnesses, and in the dock, of course, one of the music industry's most iconic and wealthy stars. At the heart of this case is the question about the true nature of a man who was once feted by American society, showered with music industry awards, and given the honorary key to this city just a little more than a year ago. This trial has shown a very different side to him, abusive, controlling and violent, aspects that the defence have not denied. The big question for the jury, though, is whether that behaviour amounted to a criminal enterprise. At the heart of this case was a video released showing him violently assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel room a few years ago after a so-called freak-off. The sex parties that have been so discussed in this case, such a central part, which lasted for days, involved large amounts of drugs and baby oil provided by his assistants.
If everybody is all drugged up, how are you getting the right amount of consent? If it's an orgy, if people don't know where they are, if they're so drugged out of their mind, how are they consenting? That is the dilemma I'm having here. How are they consenting? How are you even navigating that consent? How do you know they want to take more drugs? What does this even mean? Now, Chad says, do you think Diddy will be able to regain the love of the public? I really don't want that fucker making an album. Geez, these men are vile. Let me tell you, I have a horrible video to show you. I'm very disappointed. Not that I had any hope for any of these men to react the way I expected, but not only will he not lose the love he already has, but this is a litmus test for all of us to use in our social spheres, because I'm telling you, there are people who are more than happy to still support Diddy. And I need us to really process that information, like really embody and understand what that means and use it as the reason that maybe you start changing your friendships. You know, I remember when Andrew Tate stuff started happening and I got into it with somebody and they were just like, well, how do you know he's a sex trafficker? I'm like, I'm telling you right now, call it what you want to call it, but he's doing something very unconsensual to all of these people. Something bad is happening. And, you know, we had all the reasons to think it. Andrew Tate's bragging, his storytelling and everything. And this person was just defending, and I think this person was just going through it or something, but like, not to excuse their behavior, but like, talk about, you know what I mean? Like the way men just defend the crap out of men. And I'm like, why are you defending him? Like, what is so important about Andrew Tate? You have to defend him. And the man said, it's because if you look at my story in a specific way, maybe I could be Andrew Tate. And I was like, well, maybe you need to examine that. And that's what's really shitty. Are you Andrew Tate, or are you just a person who thinks you're Andrew Tate because if you tell the story a certain way, you might be? And this is why it's so hard. I think as an autistic person, I've lived so much of my life, and this is just last week's podcast was about this, right? Is about this autistic urge to over-explain people's bad behavior away because you know what it's like to have your behavior misinterpreted, and you don't want to do that to somebody else. But I caution all of us, because I've done this so many times in my life, I caution us from doing this because you need to understand, like, you're probably not a bad person. You're probably not even close to an Andrew Tate. But if you keep identifying with these people, you're going to make excuses for their behavior. And I need you to stop doing that unless you are in some ways confessing. Maybe you're confessing. Maybe in some ways you're making excuses because you realize you are kind of like them, right? And then maybe that's the time to really, well, realize something about yourself, okay? Let's finish out this video.
Which the prosecution say involved the coercion of people like Cassie Ventura to take part in them. Now, the defence have said that although they do not dispute that Mr. Combs has occasionally behaved very badly, all of those sex acts were consensual. Essentially, they say that domestic violence is not the same as the charges that have been levelled in this case: sex trafficking and racketeering. Now, what we've just heard, Jane, is that the jury has reached a verdict on the sex trafficking charges, but they are yet unable to reach a verdict on racketeering. It looks as if we're not going to hear that partial verdict tonight. They're going to be sent back out. But certainly this is huge news for Mr. Combs and his team. They gathered in court looking very worried about this.
So basically, the problem the jury had is they had to figure out if it was organized crime. So basically, is Diddy running, is he a mafia? Is the way to look at it. Is it a gang, right? Chet says, who's still okay to even play 50? 50 made fun of Meg Thee Stallion, didn't he? Somebody else did too recently. Listen to me when I say this. A man is a man is a man. And if a man is raised under patriarchy and hasn't deconstructed, not to be trusted. That's my opinion. And yeah, it's like Snoop Dogg doing that opening for Trump, the crypto thing. At the end of the day, a man raised under patriarchy who hasn't deconstructed is not interesting to me. Okay? Because then they make excuses for this kind of behavior. Diddy dragging Cassie by the hair, punching and abusing her, and then making excuses about, like, you know, sometimes guys are bad. Check this video out. You guys know, oh, didn't I have a secondary video? I guess not. Do you know the Wayans brothers? Do you guys grow up with the Wayans brothers? You probably, some of you definitely did, right? Okay, I grew up with the Wayans brothers my whole life, okay? And they're famous. They have so many different ventures in entertainment, from father to brothers to, okay, everybody. Okay, so Marlon Wayans, I don't know much about him as an adult now. Watched him a ton growing up. And his kid is trans and supports his kid as far as I know. Thought he was pretty cool. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, right? Like, that's kind of surprising. That's nice. I love to see, you know, fathers supporting their kids. I watched this video in full myself, and every minute got worse. Like, every single minute of this interview with Marlon Wayans got literally worse. And I was like, how could this video get worse? He's doing an interview about the Diddy verdict. This is less than a week old. This video just came out a few days ago. Okay? He's being interviewed. Look at the reaction he has to the Diddy trial, and then listen to his own justification of cheating in his own relationship. I'm telling you, every second gets worse. And let me just give this as an example, because I want you to think about your community. I want you to think about the people around you. I want you to think of how people are interacting with this story about Diddy. And I want you to remember that every person who makes an excuse for Diddy's behavior, okay? Now, I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine the other day. Fabulous conversation. And we were talking about the people in our lives that have really, really hurt people, that are genuinely like bad people, and like what to do about it. And I said to them, look, you know, they asked me a really important question. They said, what could this person in your life do to basically be held accountable, and like where you would allow them back into your life? And I was like, yeah, the chances of this person actually holding themselves accountable enough to make amends to all the people they've hurt, to actually shift as a person, is so improbable. It's so unsafe to even play with the fire of it all, that probably, like, it's not a matter of what they would do. It's a matter of like, would they do it? Because even us playing with this idea of like, what could they do, is missing the part where we have to acknowledge that they're not going to do it. Like, they're not going to do it. And so that's the thing, is like, I'm not holding my breath anymore for people to do the thing, but I'm not even playing with the fantasy of like, well, what could they do? Because we haven't even got to the point where they're even holding themselves accountable to admit that they've done harm. They always blame everybody else for why they had to do the harm, right? So that's what I want you to figure out in your own life. And I speak as somebody who unconditionally loves some pretty shitty people, who has a very open with boundaries, who has a very, I won't block you, but I'm certainly not going to invite you over, and we're not talking like it's normal. And I'm just being honest and forthcoming, because I know a lot of you have families similar to mine, where like some people in our families are not good people, and they are not safe to have around, not children, not other adults, not their own kids. And we have to sit there and acknowledge that like there's almost nothing they can do to be safe again, but there's something we can do to make sure the people in their life still can be safe. And that's really why we end up sticking around a lot of the time. It's why we create an opportunity, but also there's something to be said about the process of being a human in the world, that somebody out there really loves Diddy. As somebody out there loves the consciousness that is Diddy Combs, and those people can deal with that their own way. But the one way I recommend they don't deal with it is by making excuses for his horrible behavior. Visit him in prison if you love him that much. Visit him in prison if you love him that much. And that's the dilemma. Why is there so many, his mother's an example, there's so many people, they love you enough to excuse the behavior. They love you enough to excuse the behavior. That's not love. That's evil, right? They'll say, that's my son. How could I ever? I birthed him. I gave birth to him. All you're doing is excusing evil. What does Bell Hooks say? If there's abuse, how could there be love? Like, you might call it a mother's love, but it's really just a mother, once again, making excuses for her son's evil. These Machiavellian mothers. These Machiavellian mothers. And this is what Jordan Peterson is talking about, as crazy as he is. He's talking about those kinds of mothers. The dilemma with those kinds of mothers is they're certainly not the mothers of trans children, generally speaking. But see how Jordan isn't convinced or concerned about all these other enabling, yes, chat, enabling Machiavellian mothers. He's worried about parents supporting their trans kids. It's like, sir, if you would only focus this much energy towards actual bad people, we could actually, help the world. We could actually maybe do something. Okay, now let's watch this video because I think it's important. Again, this is exactly how I feel. A lot of conversations are about to happen in your life. Okay, I feel like a lot of conversations are about to happen in your life, like this conversation here.
They only got him for like
Big boy TV, okay?
the verdict came in.
No.
They only got him for like 2 counts, and that was for prostitution. So literally, while we're talking right now, he could be walking out if the judge say, like, literally, we're updating.
We're literally
because
on
he could be walking out right now while we're talking.
Okay, I was like, life, damn.
Big Boy's Neighborhood, beautiful day in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. He is back in the neighborhood. Marlon Wayans, welcome back to the neighborhood.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I said, man, this is a hell of a day to do radio. And you're like, why?
What
Why?
happened?
You don't know what happened as we're sitting down here today?
I woke up and I got to pray. No, what
You
happened?
know the Diddy trial, the verdict came in.
What happened?
Life.
No.
Yep.
You lying.
Nah, bro. They said that they convicted him on everything.
You lying.
Yes, bro. They
You
said
lying. Hold on, I gotta
5
Google it.
cases.
You be playing.
Yeah, I do be playing, but
You
I'm
be
serious.
playing. I
Yeah.
don't trust you.
Okay, I'm playing now. All righty, man.
You don't playing.
Yeah.
I don't trust you.
No. Dude.
P.S. Look how much they're about to joke about this subject. This is funny for them. It's going to be funny. This whole podcast is 2 grown men making jokes about rape. It's really bad.
He got acquitted for the sex trafficking. He, like all the big ones, the racketeering, not guilty. They only got him for like 2 counts, and that was for prostitution. So literally, while we're talking right now, he could be walking out if the judge say, like, literally, we're updating.
We're literally on
because
the
he
dates.
could be walking out right now while we're talking.
Okay, I was like, life, damn. Yeah, I know he ain't no Rico. He might get a Frico charge, but
Marty, please tell me that's in this show, bro.
If there's a Frico charge, that is guilty.
Hey, man,
he did it.
hey, dude, the court of public opinion on this one. Hey, bro, you've never said Frico charge?
No.
You better look in that camera and claim it as yours today.
Yeah, he got the Frico charge.
Yeah. Hey, man, but yeah, the court of public opinion, the RICO didn't happen, but as you would say, the Frico
The Frico.
is going to happen,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been to so many parties. Like I never, I can't judge people for what they do sexually in their
Right.
bed. I could judge you for hitting a woman, but as a friend, I would pull them to the side and be like, yo,
Yeah.
if I ever seen that, I'd be like, yo, you can't do that.
Yeah, man.
Okay, did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that?
I don't know. I would pull them for what they do sexually in their
Right.
bed. I could judge you for hitting a woman, but as a friend, I would pull them to the side and be like, yo,
Yeah.
if I ever seen that, I'd be like, yo.
Just. Okay. Oh. So if you ever hit a woman, I could pull you aside and say, hey, don't do that. Diddy dragged Cassie by the hair. He punched her. He dragged her. He kicked her. And he's saying, oh, yeah, if I ever saw that, I'd like pull him to the side and be like, hey, maybe don't do that. What are you talking about? What are you talking about pulling to the side? Call somebody. Get this man arrested. Lock him up. This man, Diddy, can go and drag Cassie. We can see this video. And the most Marlon will do is say like, hey, bro, maybe don't hit a woman. You know, it's like, that's it. That's your only reaction.
Yo, you can't do that.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what people you got around you, but somebody got to sit you down. You can't do that. So whatever time he spent is between him and God.
Yeah, man.
Right? That time that he spent in that position, that's between him and God. That time was spent for him to grow. And I hope when he gets out.
You know, when people evoke God, bro.
That he's a different man, better man, the signs of
Yeah. Because this 8 months in prison is really going to change stuff. So Diddy has been this man all of his life, but this little moment in prison, he's going to talk to God and all of a sudden be done with it. Do you see the way they start making excuses? He's not even out of prison yet. Do you see the way they start writing his history as if like, yeah, like, look, guys, when I talk about forgiving people and people can come back from stuff and be brought back into society, I'm thinking like, They stole a chicken sandwich. They stole some diapers for their kids. They, maybe got tempted to like steal someone's wallet one time. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm talking about things that like, maybe I thought it was a good thing I did this. I spanked my kids as a adult or when they were kids, and I realized I was wrong. Like, everything else is going to take a considerable amount of more effort and resources into giving those people a chance to change, right? Even people who are in gangs, people who've done stuff, like, you can definitely recover and come back into society from that kind of stuff. But it's what you did in the gang. What were you doing in the gang? How did you participate in the gang? It's not that you were in a gang. It's what you did while you were in the gang, right? Because some people, even when you can't. And so it's the listen, if you hit a girl, I would just be like, don't do that. You know what? It's the casual attitude about it that I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
To God.
Hey, man, we had so many conversations where we were talking about how we never got invited to like the Rock Nation brunch.
And by the way, if you're new to my channel, I don't believe in prison systems. I believe in rehabilitation. More than that, I believe in putting people away in facilities in which they are not abused. So just FYI, I do not believe in prison systems. I think they're abuse chambers. I think they're torture chambers. I think they're inhumane. I think they're undignified. But that doesn't mean we don't keep those people away from everybody else. But it doesn't mean we become evil, right? To them. We're not justified in torturing them because they've tortured other people, right? So just in case you're new to my audience.
We were like,
Thank
man,
God, right?
but we were talking about.
All right, but we don't do none of that.
Hey, man,
I would never put your stuff that makes babies on my nipples at the eye brunch.
Yeah, man.
That's wild.
Hey, man, that's real. The Frico charge, like you said, the Frico is there. But we were talking about like, man, we never got invited to that party, but we got invited to the Diddy party. We on record talking about going to the Diddy party.
I'm on record
But we
going,
didn't know.
ain't no party like a Diddy party.
Yeah.
We can't stop, won't stop. They're like,
Right.
Now you say what?
Like,
How long was you at the party?
Is this a subpoena? But you know what's a trip though, too, Martin?
I never saw
We
it.
didn't know what.
I never saw
We
it.
didn't know what freak off was because everybody thought that freak off was like when we left the party. It was like, oh, it was something crazy going on. But freak offs, from what we saw when it went to trial, was very specific.
Yeah.
It was very small and very specific.
We didn't get the invite.
Yeah, which I'm
Yeah,
glad
man.
though. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I would like to have had a chance to be with Cassie.
Right.
That's just my inner child. That just came out.
Paused.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I would like to have had a chance to be with Cassie.
Right.
That's just my inner.
Cassie said she was raped. Cassie said she was drugged. Cassie said she was coerced at those parties. She literally stood trial. And his joke is, I would have loved to have had a chance with Cassie. Is this not the most vile shit you've ever fucking heard? Like, this woman escaped barely the most abusive relationship, and your joke is, I would have loved a chance. I would have loved a chance. He is dragging her by the hair. He was drugging her. And your joke is, I would have loved a chance with Cassie? Bro. I'm serious. The world is in the bad place more than ever in modern time. We're here in the last 30 years. Like, I think this might be the moment where we are splitting, in a sense that you have to get ready to break a generational curse and break connections with people who in any way are joking about Diddy and Cassie. I am having a zero tolerance moving out of this case and into the future. Any jokes like this, any even humor, any doubt of Cassie's story, it's over. I love you unconditionally. We don't ever have to talk again. I swear to God, I'm going to start asking people, what do you think about that case? Did you watch the video? If I hear any victim blaming, I swear to God, like, come on. And the worst part is, you just know people who are older, they're not going to do the work. I said this to a friend the other day. I said, I want to be the elder in the community that doesn't require young people to do emotional labor for me, for the most part. And the issue with all of our elders, including 50-year-old Marlon here, is all y'all are stunted children, and you expect all of us to do emotional labor for you because you won't grow the fuck up. We need some goddamn adults in the room. We need our elders to be people we can rely on. And we certainly can't rely on Trump or FK Jr. or any of these other leaders we've been hiring or voting for or electing. And it's like, who is going to be the elder? It can't be our parents half the time because our parents are too busy denying the fact that they need therapy. Chad says older generations make excuses is exhausting. It's so exhausting. This is serious. And you know what's worse? Can I tell you what the worst part is? My parents verbally raised us better than this. My parents raised us better than this. They talked a really big game, but when shit became real, they couldn't back up the words. They verbally raised us way better than this. But why didn't it follow when it came to Trump? Why doesn't it follow when it comes to Diddy? Why doesn't it follow when it comes to Andrew Tate? Why isn't it following? You raised us to know this was wrong. So why are you all showing? So how can Marlon in one breath say like hitting a woman is never okay? And then the next breath say, if my friend did that, I would take him to the side and just be like, hey, nah. It's like, that's it. That's it. It's like you want the social credit of the verbal, but none of the responsibility of the physical, what you actually do. And then the joke, the follow-up joke, so he admits Diddy beat Cassie, and then the follow-up joke is, I wish I had gone to the freak-offs. I would have loved a chance with Cassie. A rape victim of the freak-offs. Okay, back to the interview.
That just came out. Wow. I just said that.
Well,
That's not even funny.
very small and very specific.
We didn't get the invite.
Yeah, which I'm glad though. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I would like to have had a chance to be with Cassie. But that's just my inner child. That just came out. Wow. I just said that.
Well, you know,
Wow, that just spilled out my mouth. You
I
know
almost
what
got
you
the don't say that either.
I'd be like, Pup, let me save you some money. I got this.
Yeah,
Let me
man.
save you send Punish at home. I got
Right,
this.
right, yeah.
I just need you to get out.
Hey, man, but
Or
it's
get behind
wild.
the curtain. Get behind the curtain. Don't say nothing. Because if I hear, yeah, get that. I'm out. You guys, can you please?
Hey man, can you imagine just being like, is somebody wearing a mask?
In the corner? Is that a
What is this?
bandana?
Yeah, man.
Wait, hold on. Is there an Arab woman
Hey,
with
man,
black eyes?
Can you imagine in the next screen if you had that dark scene and you turned around and it was Diddy?
Something out of a scary movie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, can you imagine?
By the way, that joke about is it an Arab woman with dark eyes is because apparently Diddy would wear a hijab during the freak-offs. I don't know what that's about. But that's like the joke, right? Gross.
Yeah, scary movie. Like, yeah, like man, that's him. Man, but yeah, like you say, we were talking about the court of public opinion.
Yes.
But it's wild, man, because when I looked at it, I thought like, man, the charges, they threw everything up against the wall,
Yeah.
and I thought dude was cooked. And
Once they started, actually, you get both sides.
yeah.
And by the way, there's a whole room of people in there. There's like 4 or 5 people in this room. Nobody is saying, hey, then this is a radio show. 92.3. That's what the microphones say. Yeah, this is bad. You know, I'm all about free speech, but is this the best you got?
You could tell that he wasn't guilty on what they was trying to get him for.
Right.
Because it wasn't like a mob corporation. It wasn't like he was drug trafficking. He was just doing drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brother like getting high on pink. Go ahead, enjoy your life. You got the money. Hey, if he wanted, I would have a chemist.
He got the money, right?
I would have my own Johnson & Johnson pharmaceutical company.
See how they're equating the fact that he was doing drugs and hiring sex workers as like it's okay. And this is why choice feminism is really dangerous. And allowing misogynistic and sexist men to say, well, like, you want to be a sex worker, right? You want to do OnlyFans, right? You want to be liberated, right? It's like, I'm pro decriminalizing drugs. I'm not okay with drugging people for days at a time so they can't consent to sex. You must know the difference. And these men are using it as an excuse to say, oh, they wanted to do drugs. They wanted to have sex. Yes, but if you keep somebody no, I'm not saying yes, they wanted to have sex. I'm saying, I hear you, but look at the context of the situation in which how the drugs were used and how the sex was coerced. And you're not paying attention to the context of the relationship, which is why we're looking at you a little confused. Like, what are you talking about? And then then they do this thing where it's like, well, you wanted this. You wanted a world where like drugs were, you know, a thing and sex was a thing and you wanted to be liberated, and women, they want to be an object, but they don't want to be objectified. It's like, you know, I don't understand why you're being obtuse and you're being dangerous. And that's the thing that's interesting. Are you being ignorant or predatory or malicious? But it doesn't matter because the outcome is really bad. Like, the outcome is you excusing rape because you can't imagine that it was the quote that bad, even if there are more than 30 witnesses saying it was that bad. So many people have come out. Cassie herself, who are you going to believe more than the woman who was dragged by the hair and physically assaulted in a public space, whose man Diddy at the time bought off this hotel so nobody would see this footage, only for it to leak later. I like how they're willing to believe he can find forgiveness in God, but no way was he a sex trafficker or was it rape, because all he did was beat her. He beat her. He didn't rape her, guys. Oh, my bad. He beat her. He didn't rape her. I guess it's okay. What are you talking about? That's the problem. They're sitting here and downplaying everything because all he did was, quote, beat her. And by the way, apparently that was Diddy's lawyer's whole move, is that, oh yeah, he's a bad guy, but he didn't sex traffic anyone. Yes, he's domestic violence, but he didn't sex traffic anyone. And it worked. And we're going to show you a juror. We're going to show you it worked. He was pretty bad. I mean, they did admit it, but he didn't sex traffic anyone.
Combs and combs.
I want just MDA. Take it out of his spine.
Yeah.
I want the pure fluid. But, you know, he wasn't guilty of that. But the other things that you're guilty of come with, you know, just being a responsible man.
Right,
You know what I
man.
mean? Like, there's things that you just don't do. And I hope he sat with God and got a new perspective on that. You know, there's things that you just don't do. Hitting women is one of them.
Hey, man, Marlon,
I think about it.
Right.
This whole bit right here is domestic violence. You're about to listen to a whole bit about domestic violence and wanting to hit your woman. Just get ready.
You don't do. Hitting women is one of them.
Hey, man, Marlon,
I think about it.
Right.
They get on your
Now,
nerve.
this going to become evidence.
Oh, I ball my fists up. And then I go on a walk. My father taught me.
I do box breathing.
Like this, box breathing. He did box breathing too.
And you saying your father taught you what?
My father taught me. He would get really mad at my mother and he would whistle.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would go on a walk.
That's when you knew, huh?
And the whistle, I don't know what he's saying. I think he's like, I killed this woman.
Yeah.
But the kids is watching. He's making up tunes. But he went on walks.
Yeah,
so
man.
I watched my father never hit my mother. So that's not in our family recipe.
Right.
None of my family do we do that. None of me, Sean, Keenan, Damon, none of us.
Tito, Marlon, Jackie.
Jackie,
I don't know
L.
Bobby, Ronnie, Ricky, Mike. It's just a lot of Wayans members. You know what I'm saying? You don't have no relative named Kurt?
No.
Okay, because my real name is Kurt. I just
know
thought
it's
that with the
Curtis.
Wayans.
I just don't call you by your government.
My name isn't Curtis. My name is Kurt. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Kurt.
Man, you know what I'm saying?
My
Like, this
bad.
dude, man.
My bad.
This dude over here on Chula.
My bad. But you know what? I look and I go, their family been through a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and he gonna get these jokes.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, my
I hope
God.
he got a good sense of humor, because I love him to death. But
Right.
you gonna get these jokes.
Hey, man, let me tell you.
Chet said, why do the women pick the bear? Exactly. Why do women pick the bear over a man? Is this an average man? Am I going to run into the forest with this man? Am I going to run? Both of these men are more of a threat than a bear. And that's the thing. Men who are a threat to you don't always feel threatening. And this is all genders aside, like all genders are included in this, but men raised under patriarchy, people would adhere to being a man, are the threat because they're not deconstructing. So listen, on the binary, the problem with binary thinkers like TERFs and stuff is they think men are men and women are women. But we know in this bubble that that's not true. We know it's not the fact that you were born a man. We know it's the fact that you were born a man and told you were a man and dubbed a man and raised as a man and told as a man you get to rape women because it's a part of your nature. That as a man, you get to cheat on women because it's just a part of your nature. That as a man, you can't help but be violent. You have testosterone, right? Like, we sell men a narrative about what it means to be a man. And then when people then grow up and say, well, we're afraid of men, they go, I can't believe you're saying all men are violent. Well, you're raising all men to be violent. You're raising all men to be violent. There is nobody in the world that cares about men and their well-being who should stand by this podcast and not immediately demand it's taken down. This podcast is exactly why women blame men, even though it's not the thing. That's not the fact that you're a man that's the problem. It's the fact that you think this is what being a man is. That Cassie can come out and say, I was raped. And you can say, man, I would have loved to have been invited to a freak off to have a moment with Cassie. You want to rape Cassie? Because that's what the joke is. The joke is, Marlon Wayans wants to rape Cassie. Does he understand that that's the joke? Or is he trying to pretend like, oh, that's not the joke? That's not the joke, but that is the joke. Because that's what happened. And so now they're going to play it off with like, no, that's not the joke because it was consensual. No, it wasn't consensual. And that's what the issue really is with all of these conversations about gender and everything else. Like, who in their right mind, what man right now is listening to this podcast and thinking, this is a group of good men, and these men are going to go home and think they're good men? Who is this host? I don't even know who this host is, but everybody in that room is complicit with exactly what creates a Diddy, exactly what continues rape culture. None of these people are breaking generational curses. Oh, congratulations. You don't hit women, but you think about it. You dream about it. You joke about it. Oh, cool. Your dad taught you not to hit a woman, but he taught you that he wanted to hit his wife, so he would whistle away. Your dad's a piece of shit. Your dad isn't a good man because he didn't hit his wife. Your dad is barely a good man because he withstood the temptation. Why is he even thinking about hitting his wife? Why is he even thinking about hitting his wife? You shouldn't even be thinking about it. The fact that you even have the thought that I should beat my wife or that I feel like I want to beat my wife, like, what are you talking about? The normalization of violence, of domestic violence is even, he's such a good man. He thought about it, but didn't do it. I don't even want you thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, you need to go to therapy and see what's wrong with you, because something is wrong with you. Now, are you a product of your time? Yes. Did his father experience a lot of prejudice and racism growing up? For sure. All of the stuff, right? All of the bad things. But that doesn't change the fact that that is a problem. That's not a funny story to tell on a radio show. That's a sad realization that my father was so fucked up that he would whistle when he would want to beat my mom. And I knew that my dad restrained himself, right? I wish Marlon could have said, I wish my dad had further gone into why he even had the thought to begin with. Why are women so stressful that I want to beat them? But is it really women are so stressful I want to beat them? Or is it that I have a bad relationship with myself and with my the tools that I have available to me and all of the other things that could have come out of this conversation? But instead it just becomes a domestic violence joke on a radio show. Ridiculous.
Bro,
you gon' get these jokes.
You got to seriously make sure, because there's just
Frico charging.
Because there's just some things like Booty Call got away from Bill Bellamy, Bling Bling got away from Cash Money. You know, the Frico is yours, bro.
Yeah,
and this whole time I never heard. Yeah, you better put that out on your social right now.
I'm putting in my memos right
yeah,
now. Start printing your shirts.
Well,
and by the way, Chad says men like this scare the shit out of me. You know what? Can I be real? And I want to bring this back to what I said earlier. I don't feel afraid of these men. And that's the problem. I should feel afraid. But I don't, because they don't feel scary, do they? They're funny, they're making jokes, and they have some nostalgia attached to them, or at least anyone in the Wayans family does. So there's a part of it that my brain knows other people are thinking, oh, they're not a threat. Look how funny they are. Diddy's so funny. Have you seen him on Ellen? Actually, they should be scary. We should be afraid. We should be deeply concerned. But there's a part of us, a part of my brain that I don't feel anxiety. I felt more afraid of that ex-Caleb Hammer employee because he was so manic on screen, where I was like, oh, the uncertainty of it made me feel uneasy because I was like, I don't know how to predict your behavior. But this is just another man being a misogynist. Hey, I'm used to that. Doesn't feel that scary when you're used to it. That's the dilemma, though. Sometimes we're so used to the abuse, we forget to be afraid of it, or we forget to realize it's so bad, we should be walking away from it. You know what I mean? We're so used to the abuse. We're so used to the misogyny of it all. We forget that it actually, wait, what are we doing? We should be saying something. And then we wonder, why don't men say something around their male friends? It's because they don't feel like it's scary because, hey, like, I know him, right? Oh, I know him. So when he does it, we're like, oh, but like, here's a reason. And so I say to you, use this as an opportunity to gain a little bit of wisdom, to discern, right? To discern what opportunities like this can offer us in terms of who we have in our life. Because obviously this is scary. Obviously this is dangerous. Obviously this is the kind of situation that allows men to go on thinking they're good people but also allows them to make excuses for really dangerous people. And then what's worse is like if you complain, especially if you're a woman or femme, and you complain, now you're just the nagger, the complainer, you're ruining the mood. Why are you coming at my best friend? Like, that's your brother. What are you talking about? Like, dude, like get off your dad's ass. He's old. Did you see the rapist who was arrested in his 90s? And the woman is dead now. And people were saying he's an old man. What is he going to go to prison for now? It's not about going to prison because we don't believe in prison systems, but it's the audacity that you feel like he should just go on living his life because he's old already. He's a rapist. He got away with raping a woman all of these years, and they finally were able to solve this cold case. And your reaction is, he's old, let it go. And I'm not saying seek revenge, and I'm not saying punish this old man. I'm saying you need to still hold this man accountable. And it's interesting people's reaction to something like that. Because I know what part of your human brain is like, oh, they're old now. What does it matter? It actually does matter. Funny enough, it does actually matter. And I think we should talk about why it matters. And it matters for the rest of us. It matters for the young people. It matters so they can look up and say, not only will you get justice as a victim, no matter how long it takes, but it's a message to everybody else that there's a standard. We're not going to punish these people. We're not going to torture them. We're going to hold them accountable. It's like arresting Nazis, right? Who escaped Germany and they're old. Like, you have to arrest them. You participated. You killed people. You murdered. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be held accountable. It's a message to victims out there that one day you will get justice, even if it happens after you're dead. So be careful when you think, oh, there's just an old person. What does it matter? It matters.
Freako shirts. Like, yeah. Then we figure out, like, man, that's why he named his tour Wild Child.
His new saying is going to be "Can't stop, will stop."
Your Honor. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, Martin, how do you keep yourself out of the radar? Because I don't run into you. I don't go into too many places. But how do you stay out of the radar? Aside from getting caught cheating on a boat, which you're going to come back around to.
I'm old.
Right.
Listen to this. How do you stay out of the radar except getting caught cheating on a boat? He got caught cheating on a boat. But look at the way he's about to tell his story. Look at the way he's about to brand himself while then admitting that he cheated in the way that he cheated. Okay, so pay attention, right? Oh, Marlon, how do you stay out of the news? How do you stay out of the bad stuff? Oh, except for the fact that we just caught you. Just because you're out of the limelight doesn't mean you're not doing shit. Because he would have, if he hadn't been caught cheating, do you know what I'm saying? Then what else are you doing that the paparazzi just hasn't caught you doing yet? So look at the way he's about to play it. I'm old. I stay at home. I don't go out like that. Oh, except when you do, right? Got it.
52 years old.
Right.
This thing.
But you was 42? You were 32? You were 22? Like, I never heard the, like,
you get older and you go, I was. I mean,
Martin, yeah.
God, my dad and my mom, we were raised right. I know what's right and I know what's wrong.
You know how to go home, huh?
Yeah,
I know what's right and I know what's wrong. So if my buddy hit a woman, I would tell him, hey, bro, not cool. You feel me? You want to get some beer now because we're cool like that? Sir, my mom and dad raised me right. Did they? Did they? Because didn't you just admit you cheated? So maybe they raised you right and maybe you just didn't listen.
Yeah, man.
Sit at home and have good company around you, man. I walk with God. So I don't have a bunch of knuckleheads with me. The only knuckleheads I have will be
Pause. Chet says, bra, 52 is not old. Bra, yes it is, girls. Stop downplaying 52, guys. 52 is old. You're basically dead. Okay? You're literally past your halfway point. I'm in midlife. I'm already in my midlife. 35 is midlife, y'all. Like, you need to relax. 50 is old. Stop telling 50-year-olds they're not old because they keep fucking 18-year-olds thinking they're not old. Okay? 52 is old enough to learn. Okay? You're old. You're old enough. 52-year-olds fucking around with 18-year-olds, you're old. Get out of here. Okay? Old is old. Elders, we got to start owning our relationship with age. Stop trying to avoid the fact that you're grown. Okay? We got to stop infantilizing these 50-year-olds, bro. And it's not wrong to be old. I feel old. And I should feel old. Age with grace, bros. Okay? I can't wait to be 50 and old. Okay? And again, you guys don't be pedantic about this, where you're like 50 is definitely old enough to know better, but not still seen as old. Listen, this is the excuse people are using to get away with shit because they're like, I'm a 50-year-old teenager. Old is old, bruh. Okay, old is old. Okay, you might not be, elderly. You might not be retirement, but you're old. And I'm sick of these adults acting like they're not old enough to know better.
Family members that I'm trying to unknucklehead. But really, we love each other.
Hey, remember, with such a powerful name and being in the business for so long, sometimes that gift can be a curse. And we've seen that. And sometimes
that's when you
take
use
that
your power. I don't use my power. I use whatever power I have to empower. So I sit down, I give you jewels. You want to sit down with me? I will take you, go out and sit with an actress. I will give them, here, you should learn how to write. Here's 7 books that you should learn to read. You should learn to produce. I will give you those jewels.
Right, but you're not naked when you're doing that, right?
Never.
Okay,
never.
Okay, cool.
Never. I ain't going to be in you going, hey, you know what you need. Here, read this book.
Yeah.
No, you give those things.
Gross, because he's talking about coercion. He's talking about assault, telling people, if you have sex with me, I'll make you successful. And now he's making a joke that I don't do that, but they don't understand it's rape. Like, are you not processing that it's rape? Are you not processing that? Do you know what I mean? Right? Chat, you're saying, no, I'm talking about my mom is 59. It doesn't seem that old to me. But she should seem like the adult in the room. When we say old, just because guys, think about the bubble you're in right now. Deconstruct the idea of what old is. Why is it wrong for your mother to be old at 60? What is so wrong with your mother being old at 59 years old? You know what I mean? What is so wrong with that? Why are we so afraid of saying our parents are old at 60? My parents were old at 60. Okay? Were they still, in shape and very fashionable? And yeah, but they're still fucking adults. They're old. Okay? Let your parents get old and let your parents feel good being old. Because God knows I never want to be 22 ever again. God knows I'm going to feel the best in my life when I'm 60, but I'm going to be old and I'm going to be proud about it. Okay? I'm going to be old. I'm going to be proud about it. Okay? Chet says, are we allowed to disagree without fighting? Because I just disagree. You can disagree, but I want you to take into consideration that the reason you might disagree is because of some societal implication of aging. But the reason I am disagreeing is because I think old people use it to make excuses for bad behavior, or they value youth in a way that is immature and silly. The world has convinced old people that they are worthless, and we are adhering to it the moment we argue 60 isn't old. Because what is wrong with being old? What bubble are you playing into where 60 is not allowed to be old? You know what I mean? Why can't 60 be old? Because it certainly isn't 19. It isn't 20. It isn't 30. It isn't 40. It isn't 50. Fuck, what am I old? Let me be old, right? And fuck the world for telling you you're not allowed to age gracefully, right? And then more than that you're not allowed to be held accountable for the way that you interact with the world. Because so many old people chase youth by this. Look at him. Look at him. No maturity, no wisdom, no discernment. 52 years old as fuck, and no wisdom. Sad. You got to 52 and you haven't earned any of your wisdom yet. Guys, I am 15 years. I am 12 years off from this, right? In 12 years, I better be more mature than this. I better have some ounce of wisdom, a little bit of wisdom than this. Rape jokes at 52? Are we for real? Rape jokes at 52? Come on now.
It's free. You don't use that power to manipulate people. I don't even like messing with people that I work with. No, you have you're a Barbie doll to me.
Right.
As beautiful as you are, I don't see nothing, because I love what I do so much that I would.
Okay, so you love what you do so much that you wouldn't have sex with somebody you're helping in the industry, but you'll cheat on your wife. No problem. Got it. See how I don't believe him now? He's trying to sit here and pretend like, oh, he has standards. He would never have sex with a person that he's trying to help with a career, but you're more than willing to cheat on your wife. Yeah, I don't believe you.
Never jeopardize what I do. Now, you know what's...
So you won't jeopardize your job, but you'll jeopardize your marriage. Great.
Is he going to get off?
Hey man, we updating right now. Literally as
Man,
we
that's
sitting
gonna be a
here.
hell of a party when he come home.
Right.
Bro.
He could be-
You thought the freak on. Now they catch out the bag. We know what it is.
Look at this woman sitting here with these men. Get a job, girl. Get a different job. He's literally like excited that Diddy might get off and have a party. Who is this
Right.
girl?
You thought the freak on. Now they catch out the bag.
Who's this girl? Get a different job. Why is she there? Women upholding the patriarchy. The way I would not sit in that room. The way I would be like, are you all making rape jokes right now? Like, and I get it. I've been on the edgy internet. I've definitely been around suicide jokes and rape jokes. And, you know, some context, you really feel like, oh, it's like pretty funny. But in no way is this situation funny. And I say that as somebody who absolutely has made some really shitty jokes throughout her life, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not asking you to be perfect. You can go dig up all of the shitty things I've ever done in my life, and I would be like, yup. And that's the point. God forbid I make it to 50 and I haven't learned my lesson. God forbid I make it to 40 and I haven't learned the lessons I was supposed to learn in my mid-30s. When are you going to learn the lessons? You know what I mean? That's why I say, if you watch my content, you feel like I'm not a safe space for you, you shouldn't watch me because I'm still learning, right? But I better hold myself accountable for not learning certain things by 50. Okay. Wheezy Cat Lady membership for 2 months. Thank you so much for the heart emojis. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Chet says it could be funny if he wasn't actually downplaying Diddy's actions. Well, that's the thing is like humor is contextual. And in the context of this joke, I'm not laughing.
We know what it is. Yeah. Let's pop out this rock now.
Hey man,
Oh, no,
now he'll own that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
each count that he was
Deli
convicted
Yo.
Go ahead now.
each count that he was convicted of, which is a transportation to engage in prostitution, could lead up to 10 years in prison each one, right?
Yeah, but those are like
that's-
up to.
Those are up to. So yeah, they just, I guess the latest update is that he just released a letter to the judge asking him for immediate release, and they also said that fans of Diddy are outside the courtroom throwing baby oil on each other.
Are you serious?
That's crazy. It's crazy. I'm
celebration.
gonna go home and do a slip and slide myself.
Hey man, so instead of like champagne when it comes to the championship, we are really throwing baby
Popping
oil.
baby oil. Yeah.
Police had to remove him, bro.
Can you imagine the mail carrier, somebody from Amazon later that didn't know what was going on? He's slipping down the street. But yeah, so damn.
Yeah,
but
but-
literally as we're sitting here,
Yeah.
he could. Yeah.
Like I said, man, everything is between him and God, and you know that.
Hey, dude, my daughter just told me that baby oil purchases went up at 10 a.m. Like
Are you
people
serious?
started ordering.
I'm buying me some
Amazon
Johnson
orders?
Johnson stock
Yeah,
right
man.
now. You know, I'm buying me some stock in Johnson Johnson right now.
Hey man.
Oh, pause. Hold on. Chet says you are already more mature than this, so it's not age. I want to point this out because I think it actually coincides with this conversation since Diddy's also older and Cassie's younger and all these things and Jay-Z and all these people, right? Sometimes there's an argument around age and maturity that I think people miss, and I take a very hard stance on it. The red flag of not maturing into your elder years is the fact that you didn't learn the life lessons when given that much more time on earth. A 30-year-old or a 36-year-old getting more credit of being mature. Like if you're trying to give me credit, commenter, and tell me if you are that I'm 36 and I'm more mature than him and he's 52, that's not giving me more credit. I'm 36. I should have been more mature than this. I actually am I'm a late starter. I'm a little bit behind. He's just that much more behind. So don't give me credit and realize how far behind he is and how that is all of society. And our president is years away from even him. Trump is so old and he is so immature. And this is the danger of the world, that we let the most immature people lead countries. We are allowing rapists and convicted, just disgusting men lead us. So it's not like, sometimes I think the conversation about maturity and age is, it's like, it's confused for people where people say like, oh my God, you're 18 and you're so mature. Yeah, that's not an excuse to allow the 18-year-old to then run the country. Just because an 18-year-old might look more mature than Trump doesn't mean that they're qualified to run the country. But it does mean that they're only as mature as an 18-year-old can be in comparison to what? Right? Like, yeah, the bar is in hell. The bar is in hell. So that's all, you know, I don't know if that's what you're saying. It made me think of that conversation about people in age is like, I think people give themselves not enough credit and too much credit. Like, oh, you think you're so mature at 52, but your girlfriend's 25. What are we talking about? You think you're so mature and you're an adult, but like, you know, and I understand there's a part of me that will always be a little bit of a quote kid because there's a Miyazaki in all of us, but also I'm not trying to lead any country. You know what I mean? It just feels like there's a misunderstanding here of what's really so scary about the situation of people reaching 50 and not figuring it out. Chet says, yeah, if everyone in class finishes the test on 2 hours and one student takes 8 hours to do half of it, something is up with that student. Exactly. Like something's up with you. What's going on? That's why I say like the age gap is questionable.
Oh my God, bro.
He made me look at baby oil different. I use cocoa butter.
But you know what's crazy about that is when I think it was Dave Chappelle. When he said how he's had the same bottle of baby oil paraphrase like since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't ever remember doing like this with the baby oil. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you always had baby oil that lasts you for years.
Yeah.
I don't remember at no point
bottle.
to my mom, rest in peace. I don't remember my mom saying, baby, can you go to the store and get some more baby oil? You know, like, good luck on finding some
I
now.
wanted to see the party.
Yeah.
Is it one big slip and slide? Like
Yeah,
people
man.
just all over the
Hey,
floor.
man,
You just
baby oil
slide
gonna
like
be-
this and then bow.
it's
Whatever
gonna be
hole
the,
you land in, that's what you bang.
It's gonna be the new Labubu.
This whole conversation is so gross to me.
You're not gonna
Hey,
know where the
that's-
hell to get
you know
that.
he gonna get him a Johnson. He gonna get a baby oil deal. He better make his own baby oil.
Yeah, he better.
That's where his branding
If
gonna
he
be.
sold all that Ciroc,
He
can you
gonna-
imagine?
So,
Yeah, man, all up in the videos. You know what I'm saying? Look at this. Look how you got me talking, Marlon. What are you about to show me?
Oh, I was gonna break someone's heart right now, but this is a person outside of the Diddy trial right now with a shirt.
Oh no! What does it say?
It says a Frico is not a Rico.
oh, okay.
Damn, that's all right.
She beat me to it. She ain't famous. No
but
cap.
yeah,
And she spelled Frico wrong.
Yeah, man.
Frico is Frico.
Right.
Like Rico.
Yeah, there it is.
So,
Duh.
wrong branding, bitch.
Duh. Hey man, talk to me about getting caught cheating on this boat.
God damn it, man.
Yeah.
I put it in my special. What's the name of special? You know what it is. I ended on the boat.
Wow. So he cheats on his wife, is caught by paparazzi, and then he puts it into his special. May love like this never find you. May love like this never find you.
I put my truth on stage. I'm sorry, kids. Sorry, Andrew. But I put my truth on stage because I feel like even my mistakes.
Sorry to my kids, sorry to my wife, but like this is my truth. Y'all are the traumatized, but comedians are so traumatized. Chet says they're comedians, people. I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna ban you from my chat. You have one more chance to redeem yourself, Cheddar. The trauma in this bubble is insane, and the way we just ignore it and let it pass by is crazy. There is an appropriate context for edgy jokes. This isn't one of them. This isn't one of them. They're talking literally about an ongoing rape and sex trafficking case. It's not funny.
There's
Right.
something to learn. And what happened on the boat
And now he's talking about cheating and deceiving his wife and then laughing about it and making money from it. Wow, how funny.
was, I was there in St. Bart's, and I had called one of my friends, Russell Simmons, and I asked him if St. Bart's is cool. He said, yeah, you got to go there. It's a great time. It's people. I said, is there
You'll love
paparazzi?
it.
He said, no, it's a great time. Even though my Russell Simmons sounds like Mike Tyson.
Yes, it does.
So I was like, okay, Russ. So I went, and I got a boat, and I felt like, because I did Haunted House, it was successful. I felt like Jay-Z. I was like, yo,
Chad said Kevin Hart also did this after cheating. Yeah, Kevin Hart's a piece of shit. He's been a piece of shit since that story came out. Okay? Yeah.
I'm gonna get a boat, but I forgot to take Beyonce and Blue Ivy with me.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was on a boat with a young lady, and paparazzi caught me. They didn't get one picture. Man,
Oh, they had that quick
a
click,
book. Like if
Look at when them
like a motion capture. I was slow kissing, and what's funny was I can't swim that good.
Uh-oh.
And there's me. See, yeah, they
Damn,
got
you
me.
pulled the pic. Oh, don't show me that.
Got him.
Yeah. Oh,
Got him. And what's funny.
Oh, great. Russell Simmons, you guys said he has accusations and is another essayer. Yeah, quick Google search. He has case after case against him, too.
Then I
Predators really hang out with each other. And this was the whole thing with the Aubrey Marcus thing that we just covered. The way Aubrey Marcus supports and platforms predators is all I need to know. And that's the problem. The way you also casually uplift predators is all we need to know. It's horrible. Thank you, chat. Appreciate you. You said I feel so useful now. You are. Thank you so much. But like this is It's horrible. It's just really bad. And this is why I think for a lot of us with Republican parents, it was so devastating to see them vote for Trump, because it's like, why would you do that? And I know in their head, they're like, they don't think he did it, but that's also part of the problem. Not thinking he did it is also a part of the problem. And I think that's us. That's what we have to realize about our own friendships and relationships and like the issues in our life is like the fact that you don't believe the girls. And we're going to get into this. The fact that you don't believe Cassie, or the fact that you don't believe some of these people, I get it, right? I don't believe everybody who talks either, but that's something for me to deconstruct over years. Why didn't I believe them? What was I looking for? Why did I expect a perfect victim? Why didn't I believe Amber Heard when she first spoke? Why didn't I believe her, even though she had the evidence? Why didn't I believe her? And this is why I say you have to, it does take a lot of spoons to actively deconstruct and introspect, like actively, very deeply, because it's so easy as a human being to get swept up in the mob. It is so easy for us. That's why I say, like, even on my introspection system, like fiveness is such an active participation. And even though you might always be in that idea, like it's so many spoons. And I wonder if I had been actively introspecting, would it have been better? I actually think about it as because I do reaction commentary. I think about it like, am I giving myself enough time to make comments? The reason I didn't cover Diddy this whole time is because I felt like I needed time to process it and digest it, because it's just so infuriating, right? I'm so infuriated. Like, I'm so infuriated at the injustice. But I'm like, okay, I need to really try to do this as I get more and more nuanced with my content and more thoughtful. I also need to make sure that I don't get lost in the blurriness of the nuance, and I then make excuses for bad behavior. It's a process.
I got a Google alert, because I Google alert myself. Just in case I do something stupid, because I do stupid stuff all the time.
No.
And all these, zzz, I look at my phone. Zzz, man, you ever get in trouble when you little and your booty hole get hot? My booty hole was doing it. My booty hole was talking to me. Oh, you in trouble now.
Something going on. Oh,
I let out that little nervous part. And then I got a call from Ange. You out your mother. I said, Ange, it ain't what it looked like. I said, see, they didn't even get the good stuff. There was actually more women on the boat. I made it worse. Hung up on me, man. And then,
FYI, guys, I don't want Jewish conspiracies in my chat. If you're going to be like, Jews own Hollywood, or Jews own Diddy, or Jews own, I don't want any of that bullshit anti-Semitism in my chat. If you believe conspiracy theories about an ethnic group owning an industry to the point where you're going to start blaming everybody who's Jewish, like, I don't want to have that conversation in my chat, and you will be blocked. Okay? Like, I'm exhausted. Please fucking grow up. People in power are one thing. Attaching it to a whole group of people is another. We're not going to attach the action to a whole group of people. Okay? So none of that anti-Semitism in my chat. You will be permanently blocked. Okay? Stop taking accountability out of these people's hands because you think they're controlled like puppets. Doesn't matter. The puppet still did the action. And at some point, okay, even victims can both participate in the predatory behavior. It doesn't make them not victims. Okay? So if it comes out that like some of these women were being used to get more women into the parties, they should be held accountable. And also their predators should be held accountable. But at the end of the day, there's still somebody who wasn't ever really, quote, the victim in the traditional sense. But if you really zoom out, we're all victims of the fact that we exist. Okay? Like, that's the thing I want you to remember is like, we're all technically going to be victimized by the fact that we exist, and we have to realize that. So when certain people go this deep into evil, you have to pay attention, not evil in the religious sense, evil in the philosophical sense, right? You have to decide how far you're going to go into it. Okay? Again, unless you were there, okay, the reason I hate conspiracy theorists is because y'all use a little bit of information to act like you were there. Okay? Seriously, stop. It's such a waste of time for you to distract yourself and to think you know what's going on. You are not a journalist. You are not there. You are not doing the work. Okay? Like, I'm sorry, you are a random commenter who are coming in my chat. You probably saw a TikTok. I'm exhausted by the way TikTokers think they're journalists. Y'all are not journalists. Okay? We need to focus on the fact that real victims are being harmed. We need to focus on the fact that the system has no way to hold Diddy accountable. Okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and block you because you're not getting it. I'm going to block you. I gave you a chance to redeem yourself. I do not want you to waste time focusing on what is not true. I want you to focus on what we need to focus on, which is helping our communities heal, breaking these generational curses, and focus on making sure that we hold our own friends and family accountable. Okay? These record labels and everything else, okay, they are utilizing our communities to exploit us and to harm us. But more than that, we're doing it to our own kids. Look at the way those parents sold R. Kelly those kids. We're doing it in the way that we make our family the butt of the joke in a comedy special. Okay? Our friends, our associates, our families, the people we prop up. We're doing it because, oh, so-and-so is a good debater. So-and-so is funny. He's so charismatic, though. This guy really tells a joke. He's really good at sports. Oh, he's a really good dad, though. Yeah, he beats his girl, but he's a really good dad. It's like, this is so important that we have these conversations. Because as much as like you laugh in one clip, there's another clip where you should be horrified. And this is one of those clips. I grew up with the Wayans family. I always thought they were funny. I never thought about it much. To be honest, I didn't hear much about them growing up because I never paid attention like that. But to see this clip now and then for him to be like, my parents raised me right. Well, if your parents raised you right, then you fucked up somehow. Because how are you telling me your parents raised you right, but this is the clip I'm seeing? 20 minutes of you making rape jokes, talking about wanting to be with Cassie at a freak off, and now joking about how you got caught cheating on your wife.
And I had to go home and face the music. And what happened?
What year is this around?
It's about 2000. I don't know. Google it. 2000. I was probably high on Molly then.
Yeah,
it was
that damn
2017, 14.
Oh man. Do we really have to go Google this life-changing event?
Well, you was the one that brought it back up.
But I'm talking,
I don't remember.
Right.
2014?
2013.
Okay, so I had my friend Steve with me on the boat.
Man.
And you ever have a good friend, but he a really bad liar?
Yeah. Oh man.
So this stupid, can I say it?
Yes.
This stupid, I say, he goes, Barley, listen, here's the thing. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to tell Angela, because it's pictures, right? You're going to tell Angela, yeah, you was on the boat. And yeah, there wasn't women on the boat. You was on the boat and you couldn't swim. So you jumped in the water and there were mermaids. And the mermaid rescued you and brought you on the boat. So you was just kissing her because you was thanking the mermaid for saving your life. This is a real live lie.
This ain't
This
really-
stupid.
This is comedy,
This
right?
is real. This man told me, we're going to tell this mermaids. I said, get your stupid ass away from me. So now I go to Angela's house. And I've got a Bible in my hand.
Oh.
And I got a mask on, a catcher's mask. I have protective wear. Because this is a black woman house. She had black. So I know I was meeting the side. She was going to beat the shit out of me. And then the kids, and so I put knee pads because I knew they were going to kick and bite me.
Kick
And
you
at
low.
one-
Ooh, interesting. Chet says, this is why I think capitalism is inherently violent. Money causes selfish, violent behavior, and violence is consistently used to acquire money. Well, I mean, I'm editing today's podcast. It's coming. I got a headache last night, so I couldn't edit anymore, but I'm gonna post it. And it's like pretty lighthearted, you know, but about like making money under capitalism. And there's like two ways: scam people and lie, or authentically produce, but you'll never be rich. And I like authentically producing, but you'll never be rich. And that's why people say eat the rich, because the thing you got to do to be rich, you know, there's a lot of lying and scamming. I mean, look at this whole story is about lying and scamming to sell a special at the expense of his family to make people laugh at the fact that he was caught cheating. Ha ha. So funny. Ha ha.
Point, they jumped me.
Right.
The kids, they beat me up. And I had the Bible and the protective gear, and she was like, don't do this. And she laughed. She was like, don't make me laugh. I hate you. And she laughed.
Damn.
And then I sat down and I had to tell my kids and Angela the truth. And I said, you know, what happened was we was on a boat and there was some mermaids.
Yeah, of course. He was going to make the mermaid joke. Ha ha.
You know I can't swim, baby. You know I can't swim. Like, we was on the boat.
The way that infidelity would be soul crushing to so many families and people just played off. I really think when I hear T.S. Madison say stuff like, you know, I'd love a monogamous relationship, but I date black men. I hear trauma. I hear cope. The way it would be like life changing for us if my father was caught cheating. Like it would rock the foundation of what I think a trusting relationship can look like. Because I was raised with an idea that you can be married to somebody and love somebody and people can be true to their partner. If my mom was caught cheating, I'd be like, what? Like if my parents even got divorced at this point, I'd be like, what is happening? Because even though they're grown-ups and it happens, we also know that it doesn't necessarily happen. Even my bestie's parents, if my bestie's parents were like, I cheated, I'd be like, what? It would be so against their character as I know them, right? And so the fact that and I think a lot of women, a lot of even anybody stays in a relationship with infidelity is because they're convinced, like T.S. Madison, that like if you date a man, he'll cheat. And that's trauma. That's no standards. And the worst part is they get on these podcasts and talk about standards. How can you in one breath talk about standards and another say, I'll put up with a cheater just so I feel loved and so I have somebody warm next to me? The standards are in hell. The bar is in hell. The bar is in hell.
And it was some mermaid.
So what you seeing?
Hey man, do you remember saving my life? She was resuscitating me, giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
No, she saved my life, but you don't want to hear that. Hey man, do you remember when Eddie Murphy had that thing where he was talking about how his girl, it was like, yeah, she called him cheating, and he was like, yeah, she was like, yeah, you fucking these girls, you fucking, he was like, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, all right, you got it. Yeah, I fucked her. All right, yeah, I fucked her. Okay, I did fuck her, but I make love to you.
Yeah, that was
now
wrong.
if you're gonna let one fuck come between our love, we had nothing, baby.
When people say like men disgust me, this is what I mean. Men are gross. This is gross. And by the way, this is the type of man my father always warned us against. And to be fair, that's why it's so upsetting that he voted for Trump. Like it is so deeply upsetting to me because I'm like, how do you not see Trump? I see Trump exactly the same way. Trump and Epstein and all these men are exactly like, this is how I see Trump. So the fact that I feel like my dad would know the difference with a bunch of guys standing around talking about, you know what I mean? What do you think Trump is doing? Oh, she's so pretty and I always want to, you know what I mean? Like, why are we talking about that? And I think it's because, you know, politics somehow convinces you that the politician you're voting for, you get to pretend that what they're doing doesn't matter. That's what I think it is. I think they think, well, I'm not voting for him because my dad says that. I'm not voting for him because he's a good husband. I'm voting for him because he's pro-life and he's going to help the economy. Do you know what I mean? They think, well, yeah, my dad will say, oh, Trump's a horrible man. He's always been a horrible man, but he'll be a good president. And I'm like, yeah, but you said Bill Clinton, you know, if he cheats on his wife, he's going to cheat on the American people. So when Bill Clinton took advantage of that intern, oh, now we can't trust him because he took advantage of an intern. But Trump, we can trust Trump? And that's the hypocrisy of it all.
I went to see Raw.
It's all the spin.
I went to see Raw in concert. My brother was a producer on the movie, and Robert Townsend, who's like a big brother to me, he directed Raw. I got to see that in the 6th grade.
Oh,
I took
my
my best
God.
friend, David Fabricant. And that was one of the other things that made me go, I want to be a comedian. Eddie Murphy on the stage, he was just so brilliant. And to be that young and that brilliant and stay brilliant, Eddie Murphy is, to me, Damon, Eddie, and Richard Pryor are my 3 goats.
I remember watching, like, if you go back to Delirious
And
now.
Chappelle. I'm always going to give Chappelle.
Yeah, so they're giving all these credit to these men. We're done with this interview. They're giving all these credit to all these like shitty men. I get it. I think we've all at one point liked Eddie Murphy or liked Dave Chappelle. But as we've gotten older, have we not learned how shitty of people they've been? Like, have we not learned how shitty both of those men are? All right, now I want to swing this to a different abuse situation, but I'm going to swing it back to Diddy by the end of this. Remember when FKA Twigs came out with her allegations against Shia LaBeouf? And I remember when I heard them, because I love FKA Twigs, and I remember when I heard them, I was like really distraught for 2 reasons. And I will own this. I was scared for both of them because I had grown up with Shia LaBeouf and I didn't know how fucked up he was. And I loved FKA Twigs and I didn't understand how much he had fucked her up. And I remember being so emotionally distraught for both of them and being like, I don't know what to do. Like, what's going on? Because in some ways, I really feel for Shia's abuse as a child. And he, you know, experienced like, just like a lot of really horrible things. And so my brain was really torn. But I think in situations like this, what we have to do, and this is what's so hard for us, is we need to look at the present context of the situation. And yes, take into consideration the past. But the past cannot eradicate or erase or take away or remove the responsibility of the present action. And this is why it's so difficult, because I know you want to. I know you want to justify it, come up with excuses, explain it away. But the truth is that you can't explain it away, but you can explain why it happened and you can still hold people accountable. Okay? You can explain what's happening in my chat. Is something happening in my chat? Let me know if something's happening in chat. I can't keep up with it right now, but I feel like I'm missing something that's happening. Okay, so let's watch this interview with FKA Twigs at the time when she came out and just like relive in the situation and remember that people doubted her and people still doubt her to today. And remind her that Shia LaBeouf has like found Christ again. He's like Catholic again. He played Padre Pio and like he's trying to be a better person now, and women are still dating. Okay, women are still dating him. So just remember that Shia LaBeouf, even after all of this stuff came out, he's, quote, finding redemption through Christ. Andrew Tate went for Islam. Shia LaBeouf went for Catholicism. All these men, Russell Brand went for Christianity. All these men are abusive, and then they use God to kind of erase their sins because they confessed. You know, the church really has to get their shit together and remind people, like, yeah, even though God forgave you, that doesn't mean the government did. Just because God forgave you doesn't mean that the world has to invite you over, right? Okay, here's FKA Twigs.
Top displays of affection just to knock me off the pedestal, to tell me that I was worthless, to criticize me, to berate me, to, you know, pick me apart. Some of the worst times that I experienced in that relationship were when I think he felt like he was losing control of me, and I was trying to get out.
And didn't he have a request of you? You had to kiss him a certain amount of times?
Yeah, I had to give him a certain amount of sort of physical affection a day. So at first it was touches. So I'd have to like touch him and be like, are you okay? Like, I love you.
Show concern.
Yeah, are you
express
okay?
love.
You know, little things like that. And then I began to get really on top of that. And then he would say that I didn't kiss him enough.
And you never knew what that bar was?
No, I think it was around 20 touches and kisses a day. And so I'd start to panic, and you know, you lose count and the days blur into each other, and I'm thinking...
I'll give you an example of why this conversation was so interesting to me. Because in one relationship, you might say, well, yeah, but I know what it's like when you're with a partner and they don't hug or kiss you enough, and physical touch is my love language and I just want affection. How do I advocate, right, for that? Like, how do I advocate for that without sounding controlling? You say that, hey, I love you. Actually, I'll do it. I'm a very physically touched person. And I remember I told my partner once, I was like, I love you so much. Can we have a 20-minute cuddle session? Because I need my physical touch meter filled. And then my partner's like, yes, of course. And I'm like, cuddle, cuddle, cuddle. Versus, hey, you don't touch me enough. Which is how I assume Shia LaBeouf did it. You don't touch me enough. And I need to be loved. And I'm a man. And if you don't love me, then I'm going to find it somewhere else. So you better touch me. Yeah, that's not good communication. That's a demand. That's making her feel bad. You don't touch me enough. You don't love me enough. That's not the same thing as saying, hi, I love you. Can I have my 20 minutes of cuddles? Because I need my physical attention. See how I'm sing-songing it? I'm making it cute? Because it's cute. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be cute. It's not cute when you're yelling at your partner about touching you. And that's the difference. If you're feeling neglected in a relationship, make sure, one, are you being neglected, or have you guys just not communicated properly? And talk to your partners before you feel neglected, before it becomes neglect. You know, be on the same page so you don't neglect each other. Check in with each other on a daily basis. How are you? What do you need from me today? Have you got enough touches? Have you had enough cuddles? Have we spent enough time together? We check in every day. Hey, have we spent enough time together? I know I worked all day. Hey, I'm sorry I was working on the pod till like 3 a.m. Did we have enough time together? Should we do something? You want to play Smash? Like, what do you want to do? And it's like, you know, check in with your partner.
Thinking, it's 8 o'clock and I've got like 3 hours to do this. Abusers use gaslighting, which is where like somebody minimum.
Hold on, chat said, and they're allowed to say no. Okay, let's talk about that one too. Yes, they're allowed to say no, though why you would say no should be talked about. So as an example, I go to my partner, they're on the computer, and I say, hey, can we cuddle for 20 minutes? Like, I haven't gotten my physical, like, love. I need my physical love. And they go, yes, but you have to give me 30 minutes because I'm in the middle of a game and I can't get out, but I'm going to come see you after this game. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. And then I go and I mind my business for 30 minutes until my partner's ready. That's a good way for my partner to say yes, but not right now. Okay. Another situation. Hey, I haven't had my 20 minutes of cuddles. Can I have my cuddles? No, I don't feel like it right now. Oh, why not? I don't know. I just don't want to touch you right now. Okay. Is that okay? Well, now if you answer with that fucking attitude, it's not. Now we have to talk about it. You're being weird. Why are you yelling at me? No, what's going on? And why wouldn't you want to touch me? Like, what's going on? So yeah, like if you guys answer with venom, then no, we have to have a conversation. But if you answer with love and good energy and good faith and compassion, then yeah, it's just called communication. But if you're cruel with your communication, then that's not consent. That's just abuse. You're being toxic. Consent should allow for like a healthy communication opportunity. And that's the problem. Both people should feel like they're on the same page. And look, if you're having a miscommunication afternoon, it happens. Just be like, damn, I'm really sorry that we can't figure out how to get on the same page. Let's figure it out, because we are products of our environment. We hold trauma in our bodies. We might be getting defensive. Let's take a 20-minute breather. We'll come back. I love you. Okay, 20-minute breather. I'm back. Hey, have we figured out what may be wrong? Can we talk about it? You know, it's like there's conversations that can be had with the right tonality to indicate good faith and also raw vulnerability. Hey, I'm feeling pretty raw right now. I feel like pretty hurt and pretty like stuck in my body, and I love you, but I'm feeling really disconnected. Like, I don't feel like I'm quite here, and I just need some reassurance. You know, is that okay? Can you give that to me right now? Or do you need a second? You know, all of these communication tools can help us be better partners, but we're not going to be better partners if internally we actually know we don't love that person or care about that person, or if we're not going to show up. And what's worse is the other person, so the FKE Twigs in this situation, she's going through her head like, but he said he loved me, and I'm moving off that information. But it's when you realize that he doesn't even love you. It's when you realize like, oh, he didn't even abuse you because you did something. He abused you because you were the first one available to him. You were just in the room. She says that in an interview, and it really is exactly how I feel. Like, when I think about my past relationships or past situations that I've had, it's not even about me. I was just the person in the room. And that sucks in some way, but then it kind of relieves you from having to take on the burden that you did something wrong, instead of realizing that they did something wrong and you were just the victim of it, you know? And that's the thing, right? Chet says you wouldn't be in a high compatibility relationship if the love languages didn't mesh. Therefore, if someone is all about touch and the other is sensory opposed to it, that's a potentially not a match. Yes, but not always. My partner is less inclined for touch and I'm more inclined for touch, and we're very compatible. So it just depends. You know, we're actually kind of opposites on that, but we work together really well, and we really like spending time together. So we make it work, but for some people it could be a deal breaker. But it just depends. And love languages are a construct created by a man who wanted to control his wife. So just FYI, they actually come from a really toxic bubble, but they are a cool shortcut to saying things I prefer as a sign of affection. So love languages are not real. They're constructs. But as a person who loves physical touch, okay, I love physical touch. I don't necessarily have to be with a partner who also likes physical touch, but they need to be able to in those times of need, be able to help me. And yes, love languages, guys, research it. It's crazy. These men making up bullshit to control their women. Read into love languages. It's going to make you gag. It's so crazy, these abusive men. Abusive men they love to twist romance to control people. Okay, back to the FK Twigs interview.
Is your experience, you know, it's like altering your narrative and not listening to you and denying your experience. And eventually it did become physical. There were certain instances where he would push me and then he would say, you fell.
Ugh.
And I would get really confused, and I would think maybe I did.
When did you know this is really serious and maybe I need to rethink this relationship?
Yes, well, around Valentine's Day, we had a really disturbing trip to a spa in the desert. But it just descended into one of the worst, you know, like long weekends that I'd had in the whole of my life. It resulted in him speeding down the motorway and saying that if I left him or if I said that I didn't love him and if I was going to leave him, that he would smash the car into the side of a wall. And I thought, wow, like he needs so much control over me that he would rather kill us both. And eventually he pulled over into a gas station and I tried to unload my bags from the car. There were 3 men opposite the car, and I remember thinking, this is it. I was like, this is it, I'm done, like I can't do this anymore. And he picked me up and he threw me against the car and started strangling me. And that's when I realized I need to get help to get out of this relationship.
What did the men at the gas station do?
They did nothing. They just watched us. And I felt so alone, you know, and that's why I wanted to come forward, because victims and survivors like shouldn't have to feel alone.
And it got so bad that you called it helpline, right?
Yes, and I remember.
So I believe her because we've seen it. We saw it with Cassie and Diddy. Nobody did anything. We see it with the way we make jokes. I'm telling you right now, I 100% believe this story. We have no reason to doubt it, right? We have no reason to doubt it, especially since men do get on the internet and make content about like not getting in between domestic violence situations because they're not going to die for somebody, but maybe they'll call the cops. Yeah, I get it. But also that means you've witnessed it. And did anybody call the cops? Probably not, because you just think like it's not my business. And to some extent, right? Maybe you'll make it better. Maybe you'll make it worse. But it's one of those things where I'm using this as an example because people still doubt her to this day, even though Shia LaBeouf has an infamous reputation as being violent and having issues, has admitted to problems. People still don't believe her. They don't believe her.
After that weekend, going back to where I was staying and looking at myself in the mirror, one side of me was like completely black. And I was so shocked, you know, like I was...
It's okay. It's all right, Twigs.
Sorry.
No, no, no.
I really
You do not need to apologize.
No, I
No,
didn't
no.
want to cry. I don't.
Twigs, look at you for just a second. You're talking about something that's very traumatic to you, and yet you feel that you're the one that has to apologize. That's
Yeah.
sort of about why we need to be talking about this,
Exactly.
don't you think?
So I'd gone back to where I was.
I'm going to pause it there to answer this question. Do you think it would have been different if women were there? Probably not. The same way it wasn't different that there was a woman in that studio, even though she was outnumbered, she didn't get up and walk away either. Women uphold the patriarchy. We've all participated in it. We've all probably made those decisions ourselves. We've probably all vouched for a guy we thought was a good guy only to realize otherwise. Like, we uphold the patriarchy. And so no, even if there was a group of women there, depending on the kind of women, no. And that's the problem, right? But it's also like it's a little bit more complex depending on the exact situation. But if I think we were honest with ourselves, I think we've all probably seen stuff that probably would have warranted a call, but we didn't make it because we thought maybe it's not bad enough. And this is actually a really difficult thing to figure out. It's kind of like, this isn't totally like one-to-one, but think about it this way. How often do y'all go to the doctors, no matter how bad you feel? How bad do you have to feel before you go to the doctors? Now, how bad does it have to get before you call the cops? And for most of us, we wait till it's too late. And that's it. That's people for you. And that's what we really got to figure out. That's what we got to figure out. Is how do we fix that? Can we even fix it? And then we can give ourselves a little bit of compassion, because it seems to be a problem in a lot of ways. Because how stupid do you feel when you go to the doctor and nothing's wrong and you just wasted a whole day, took a whole day off work, and you're like, Jesus? Or how dumb would you feel if you called on somebody and there was nothing going on? So then you don't want to be embarrassed. Then you don't want to waste your time. Well, then you don't want to do it. And then when you really should have called the cops, or you really are sick, you think, it's like last time. It's probably not a big deal. And then you die at 35 from cancer. And then your neighbor is reported dead because her boyfriend actually killed her this time. And I'm saying that's the problem. It's really difficult to know when to make the decision, especially when it comes to calling the police in general. That's not even a great situation because they escalate most of the time. You know? Chaz has just got a bill for $2,000 for an ER visit because of an unexplained pain that went away an hour after I got there for no reason. I'm not telling you what to do that ER bill, but I hear collections is really good at taking on that responsibility. In my debt, if it's your debt now. Anyways.
Saying, and the whole one side of my body was black and blue. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm a dancer and I really love my body and I take such good care of it. And I was looking at my body and I just thought, where did it all go wrong?
Why did you decide, Twigs, to file a lawsuit against Shia LaBeouf?
I didn't want to. Originally, I wanted to ensure that he got help privately so that he couldn't hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. I wanted him to donate money to charity, to an organization, because when I called the helpline, it was a real moment of everything changing for me. And they didn't know that I was like FKA Twigs. They didn't know who I was. I was just a girl on the end of the phone.
And by the way, a lot of those 1-800 numbers, like the suicide hotline and stuff, have been defunded by the Trump administration.
Needed help.
Who needed help?
If he had done the things that you had asked,
yeah,
you would not have filed the lawsuit.
No.
And nobody who's been in this position likes this question. And I often wonder, is it even an appropriate question to ask?
Mm-hmm.
And you know the question is, why didn't you leave?
Yeah. And I think we just have to stop asking that question. I know that you're asking it like out of love, but like I'm just going to make a stance and say that I'm not going to answer that question anymore.
Oh, I missed it.
And
even an appropriate question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the question is, why didn't you leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only person who should ask you that question is your therapist, so you can work it out in therapy. I'm with FKA on this. I think the only time that question is appropriate is when you're in therapy and you're getting to the root of your trauma. Because in therapy, they're not going to like blame you for it. It's not a blame you question, but basically when anyone else asks that question, it's a blame question.
And I think we just have to stop asking that question. I know that you're asking it like out of love, but like I'm just going to make a stance and say that I'm not going to answer that question anymore, because the question should really be to the abuser, why are you holding someone hostage with abuse? You know, and people say, oh, it can't have been that bad because else you would have left. And it's like, no, it's because it was that bad. I couldn't leave.
Shia LaBeouf did release a statement. Many of these allegations are not true. But he also said this: I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations. I've been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years, he says.
So none of them, wait, hold on.
Or aggression. Allegations are not true.
So many of the allegations are not true, but I have been abusive to myself and everybody around me.
But he also said this: I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations. I've been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years, he says. I'm ashamed of that history and I'm sorry to those I hurt. When you heard that, what did you think?
I think it just...
I'm sorry to those I hurt. Be explicit. In what way do you feel like, you know, that wasn't correct? But that's the problem, is like, I don't believe him.
Reminds me of something.
I don't believe him that she's lying. I believe that he probably thinks it's not that big of a deal, because this is what I'm trying to say about Diddy and everything else. The way we downplay abuse, because it's hard to think that this is an abuser. It's the same thing with rape. I was watching Olay and Friends cover the Diddy stuff, and Olay was saying that like marital rape throughout the states, and just thinking about the history of marital rape, is like rape under definition for some places was like bruised and battered and beaten. Right. And so if it doesn't look that way, then it can't be rape. And so I think that's what we do with everything. And even I questioned myself if I did it recently, and I don't think so. I think I did pretty good, but I was worried I did it myself with the Mormon video that I just did about it being like physical assault, where I'm like, I do think definitions can matter in these situations because it allows you to react appropriately. I think I made the right call, but I'm open to the idea that maybe I didn't, but I think I made the right call given the context. But it is one of those things I do question now, because I don't want to be the person who's like, well, is it rape if you aren't bruised? Is it rape if you didn't fight back? Like, I don't ever want to be that person, right? But it's difficult because then we overcompensate and then we make excuses for bad behavior because we don't want to call it something as extreme as a quote rape. But isn't it? Or isn't it domestic violence? Or isn't it assault? Or isn't it? And then why isn't it? You know, why isn't it? And I think a big part of it isn't because we care about definitions. It's because we don't want to see the people we like, in quotation marks. We don't want to see them be that version of themselves that doesn't match how we feel about them or think about them, right? Chet says, no, I don't think you victim blamed at all. I thought you were being super rational. I tried. Maybe I'm wrong, but I tried, you know? And that's the thing is like, I'm open to the conversation, but I don't want it to come at the expense of the victims, ever.
Some of the gaslighting that I experienced when I was with him, the sort of taking some of the blame, but not all of it, and then denying it.
What do you hope will come out of this?
I think that the result for me is already happening, and I think I needed to, I just couldn't carry it anymore, you know? I felt like I was cracking, whereas now...
Wait, that's a great point. Chet says it's the dehumanization of people who commit rape as monsters. It's like, those are just people, it's just humans. I agree. I think that's why I try not to paint it as like he wasn't even a human. It's because then we start to imagine that like, oh, he couldn't do that. He's such a nice guy. What does being a nice guy have to do with rape? Right? If you say he's a moral person, he's good when it comes to temptation, he has really strong values, he does the right thing when it matters, that's different, but that has nothing to do with being a nice guy. Like, I just think about the scandal that's come out of the Catholic Church, and I just think, how many more priests and nuns have to be caught before you realize being a religious person doesn't make you moral? Chez says Ted Bundy was super nice. I believe it. I believe it.
Now I feel like I've handed his dysfunction back to him, and it's his.
So if we sit here today, FK Twigs is feeling what?
That's a big question. I'm feeling brave. Yeah.
I love her. And this was so long ago. This video was posted 4 years ago, but I feel like this interview must have been so much. I feel like it was longer than that, but maybe it was about 4 years ago now. She's matured so much. She's grown so much. And I really appreciate her coming out and speaking up, because I think it was so important. And it was just another real testimony to Shaya's long history of misconduct and abuse, right? Chat said most rapists probably think they're nice guys. I think most rapists don't even think they're rapists. Yeah. Yeah. Most people, I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of people that will excuse people putting stuff in people's drinks because, quote, it's a party. Real story. Like, it's a party. I'm like, what? And like, that's the problem. And it's hard. It's hard to speak up when you've already gone to the cops, you've done a rape kit test, and none of it matters. Do you know how many rape victims accidentally go take showers after their rape, washing away evidence? And then the rape kits will show scarring or something of that nature, but won't have the DNA. Like, a rape victim needs to stay soiled, stay in their original clothes, or at least bag them up, take them to the police station, get testing done. Like, imagine you've just been raped and you have to logically think, hold up, let me put my clothes in a baggie. Let me go to the cops instead of let me go home and shower because I feel disgusting. Okay, last story, and this one is a doozy. And I think this personally explains everything we need to know about this Diddy case. This is an alternate juror. So this was not one of it was the alternate, right? Listen to the way he's interviewed by CNN. Listen to the way he answers questions. Listen to the way the conversation goes, and listen to why he says that if he was a picked juror, he would have probably agreed with the outcome of how things had gone recently. Okay, so this is a recent interview. When was this done? Just so I can give you guys the exact date. 4 days ago. This is really interesting. Like, I listened to this on my own. I was fascinated. So, okay, here we go.
Joining me now is an alternate juror who was in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. George is joining us right now. This was 7 weeks of your life, hearing all of this testimony. You were an alternate. You did not deliberate, but did you agree with the final verdict?
I understood the final verdict, and I think if I, because I took a copious amount of notes overall, I took 350 pages worth of notes. Because at the end, we weren't told who was an alternate, who was the main juror until literally the last second when they were reading when the judge was reading his entire statement at the end. It was like, the first 12 of you are the jurors, the last 5 are the alternates. So we didn't know, even in the jury room, no one treated everyone, we all were equal because we didn't know who was who.
Would you have acquitted him on RICO?
I think reading all my notes and looking back at the evidence, I probably would have reached the same conclusion as the other jurors.
What was it about that charge?
I don't, the thing with because we were asked and the judge had instructed us that we have to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think there was always a little bit of doubt in people's mind. And I think it was a tough case to prove, especially the first one. And there was always a little bit of doubt there, even from the beginning.
Why did you doubt?
I think some of the charges, some of the witnesses, if you look at it one way, but then when you were listening to the defense, you could see it's their way as well.
Were there any witnesses that made you think, I don't believe this?
There was one that I think unanimously we kind of all said like, wow, like it was almost like watching like TV. It was like like when I think her name was Dawn Richard, that one. When she on cross-examination. I mean, I never saw such a cross-examination. It was very impressive to watch.
What was it about it?
I think just how the defense got into her and really made her look very not credible. I mean, I even wrote in my notebook that it was like a takedown.
Really? And that was pretty early on.
That was
Chat trying to decipher his body language and stuff. I think he's autistic. I think he's neurodivergent or has a Tourette's or something. He, I think he's got a smile tick. I don't think he's being malicious. I think he's just nervous. And I think his energy is, the way he's being interviewed. I also hear a slight accent. I don't know if English is his first language. And I'm also hearing like a cadence in his voice, which indicates to me more, that he's not, he's a foreign in a way. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and allow him to communicate in a way that feels natural to him. I also have him sped up on 1.25, but I would say that he probably does feel like this is the craziest thing he's ever done. So I want you to pay attention to actually a layer of this that I thought was interesting, because I saw what you saw too. And then I had to remember that this is probably, forgive me, kind of exciting, because this is like being a part of the OJ case. It's like being a part of history. He is going down in history right now. Like, it's a pretty big feeling, right? Even though he wasn't picked to be a juror, and even though it might not feel that way, like it must feel so surreal to be a part of something like this. It's a pretty big deal. So he's probably overwhelmed with the anxiety of everything. And also CNN asking him to be here and everything. I mean, they're certainly happy to, make some money off of having him here, right? So yeah, just something to think about, just something to consider.
Pretty early on.
From the opening statements, did you have a mindset of who you thought had a better case?
No, I think overall, from the way I look at it, both sides presented really good. Both sides presented themselves well. We were very impressed with the prosecution and the defense, how they, their professionalism, how they carried themselves.
And look, this is, the thing about a jury, have you guys ever been called up for jury duty? I've gone like 3 or 4 times. And one time I even got far enough to see a woman who had killed her husband in a domestic abuse situation. And I remember seeing her hair tied up in a bun, very stoic. And I remember thinking like, oh, I really want to be on this case. And I wasn't picked. But this woman's energy, like I'll never forget the way she felt to me. I don't know. It felt very devastating. I don't know why I kind of believe that she did it in self-defense. But if you've ever been even called into jury duty, then the experience is like, oh, kind of boring, kind of stupid. You don't know why you're there until you're actually there. Ches says, you think she's guilty? I mean, she killed him, but I think it was in self-defense maybe. By the way, because we got the story. So we were told the story. We were told it was a domestic abuse situation. We were told she was fighting back. She's claiming self-defense. His family's claiming murder. And I'm saying felt more like self-defense, like he was attacking her. But I don't know. I never got farther enough. I was never picked. I never got far enough. I only got to hear the base of the case. Like I didn't get far at all. So yeah. So anyways, it was interesting. But I don't have much experience with actually getting further. And I used to tell myself, if I ever could, this would be honestly, we should be participating. This is what sucks. We actually should want to be on juries, and we should want to participate, and we should want to be educated, and we should want to seek justice. But how many of us work really hard to get out of jury duty? Like how many of us usually don't want to do it? And it's usually because we're not paid or compensated. But how many of us really should be participating in the system in this way, right? And this is going to show up more than anything later on because I'm so, wait until you hear this interview because I'm so curious what you guys think about certain parts.
I mean, it was really good lawyering, as they say.
Racketeering is notoriously a complex case. Did you feel that the prosecution presented...
And remember, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Like it has to be, you have to be real. That's why cases are so difficult because you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's really hard to do.
Did enough evidence to support that there was even an enterprise?
I think they did the best that they could, but I think it was a tough case to prove.
Why?
I mean, when you look at the charges, kidnapping, arson, forced labor, the government had one side, but then the defense, they had some pretty good rebuttals.
Mm-hmm. So for you and I, in our language with our definitions, we would consider everything Diddy did all of those things. So you hired sex workers, but you kept them drugged up for 3 days in a row. That's basically an argument of kidnapping if they couldn't consent to leave. Cassie, under duress and physical violence, ended up following Diddy to different places, even if she didn't want to. I could argue that's a form of kidnapping or sex trafficking, right? You sit there and you think about all the situations. Like the thing is like the court figuring it out is different than us making the moral or ethical judgment of what we want to call it. And this is the dilemma. And so what people are doing, and Olay said this too on Olay and Friends, she said the dilemma we're going to run into is people think that the law is somehow reflecting the morals or taking away the fact that shit happened. Just because he wasn't found guilty of sex trafficking doesn't mean he didn't in some way sex traffic or that he didn't abuse Cassie, right? Or any other people. So the dilemma with this is remember that just because the court didn't find you guilty didn't mean you didn't do it. And just because the court finds you guilty didn't mean you did it. And that's why I say if we only could be a fly on the wall, if we only could actually know what really happened in situations, because, human beings, we know innocent people are sitting in prison right now. And the fact that we know that should make us feel sick to our stomach. We should feel sick to our stomach that innocent people are sitting in prison for 30 years right now. That should tear you up at night. And then you should appropriately, radically accept. But that should make you feel a way.
To it. So, I mean, that I think added some, doubt always, and I think in people's mind.
You didn't hear from some of the people the government said were co-conspirators, like employees.
Like Christina Karam and
example,
and
or D-Rock.
Yeah.
Did that affect your thoughts about the case?
I don't think so, no.
Would you have wanted to hear from them?
We always thought that maybe we would hear from them, but maybe we also understood maybe why they wouldn't be called.
Why?
Because maybe they didn't want to testify, or they wouldn't really be proving the case, or maybe it would be not advantageous to be called. So, but honestly, we were just waiting till the end, until when the judge gave his instructions and how to interpret the law. Because I think everyone really didn't have anything made up, their mind made up, or in any way. It was really, everyone was waiting to see how, the definitions and how everything was going to be interpreted and what they were to be looked at. Exactly.
So important.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the sex trafficking cases, because of court charges. Obviously, Cassie Ventura testified visibly pregnant for days.
Yes.
How did her testimony impact you in your understanding of the case?
It did. I listened, we listened very intently. It was, I think, 5 days or forever of thing. And, it was very riveting. And it was very riveting testimony and very credible testimony.
You believed her?
I mean, I think we did. I think we did. I mean, she wouldn't have done all this just to come up there and lie about everything. So no, I don't think even the defense didn't come out and say anything like that.
Exactly. The defense didn't even deny that Cassie had been abused. They just said, "Oh, but it's not sex trafficking." Because it feels like the world, same with Andrew Tate. When people are like, "Brittany, are you going to say Andrew Tate isn't a sex trafficker if they prove he's not?" No. Like a lot of gangsters, who was it? Was it Al Capone? Who was it they got on tax fraud because they couldn't get him on anything else? It's not that uncommon that big mafia gang situations that you get them on something else instead of the actual thing. Like it's so like common that I don't even think about it. But the fact that people don't know, and so they think like, oh, this proves something. Al Capone, thank you. Okay, yes. It's like that doesn't prove anything. So it is one of those things where Cassie's story is 100% true. So for me, like that's all I need to know. And for everything else, I think that's what's interesting is like, yeah, that's all I need to know. And for other people, they're like, yeah, but is he innocent? What do you mean? If Cassie's story is true and everything she's saying is true, then why are you still asking if he's innocent?
The money that they talked about in terms of a civil settlement she received, did that color her testimony for you at all?
I don't think so, no. I don't think so, no.
Did you look at the defendant, Diddy Combs, differently after her testimony?
No, I didn't really look at him too much. I mean, I always looked at him because my point of view was just literally at him. Like some people were on the side, but I was more in the corner. So
Exactly. Chet says Andrew Tate admitted that he was teaching men how to do the lover boy method. He ran a business on it, girls. Andrew Tate was like, buy my course, I'll teach you how to sex traffic. And we all just sat there and went, tee-hee. That's what I mean. He literally bragged about it. The fact that we can't prove because people can tell stories, like telling a story isn't necessarily a confession. They still have to find the evidence. Like just because you write a record committing or admitting to a crime doesn't mean they can get you on the record alone. They actually have to find the evidence, right? So like that's the problem with Andrew Tate is like he can admit it all he wants and say it was a joke. Bugatti, it was a joke, you know, and that's it. That's why we have to look for evidence. We have to find proof.
I was always like staring at him, but.
And by the way, I know there's a boy kink out there. It's not really a kink. It's like a boy kink though, where they're like, ooh, I got away from the cops. I got away from the government. I outsmarted another boy group. It's like, you know what I'm saying? There's like this, there's this like pride that they got away with it that I think some people love. I mean, I'll take it down to a very petty level, but you ever been a kid who like sneaks into the school on the weekends and you feel kind of cool about it? Yeah, except they're sex trafficking people. So.
I don't think he was mostly just very composed and talking with his lawyers and very in control, it seemed like. You know, because I think I'm not really familiar too much with cases and I don't really follow, you know, cases in court. So I don't know how defendants usually act. But sometimes what I've heard in you know, from the news is that some defendants, you know, they just sit very stoically. They don't interact with their lawyers. They just let their lawyers talk and go. But he was very, you know, talking with them, writing notes.
Charismatic.
Doing that. So you could tell that he, you know, he was, you know, he was fighting for himself.
You saw some very graphic images, videos. You heard very sexual and graphic details. What was that like, hearing that? And how did it impact how you viewed the case?
No, they were very graphic. And, but I think overall, you know, we were looking at it from like one side and it was definitely riveting and eye-opening.
What did you see on the videos? You know, the press wasn't able to see it in real time.
Yeah. No, I mean, they were showing some of the, well, I mean, it was both the freak-offs and hotel nights, as they were called, from both of them. But it was...
what did they show in those videos?
They showed, well, again, you know, the defense and the prosecution showed different clips, so they were very selective. Like the prosecution was showing more, you know, just Cassie just sitting around.
The defense showed that?
The defense showed that, yeah.
Just her sitting around not engaging in sexual activity?
Yes.
For the prosecution, when you had to have your headphones on and otherwise, what were you seeing then?
There was sexual activity, but I mean, it wasn't really.
Was it forced?
No, it didn't. It didn't seem forced. It was actually like pretty tame.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she?
It was just a lot of rubbing oil and stuff on there. It wasn't anything too you know, graphic.
Let me ask you.
I think that's the thing is like, I don't know. Okay, so you know what was graphic? Diddy beating the fuck out of Cassie. Do you know what I mean? I understand that in court, they are showing them videos that like will be like, oh yeah, but the freak-offs were like pretty, you know, not violent, but you just know if he's doing this shit in a hotel room, you think he's not doing this shit in the bedroom somewhere? There is a videotape somewhere. There's evidence somewhere. There's a witness somewhere. Ain't no way he's beating up Cassie in a public hallway and in private, he doesn't do some fucked up shit. And that's the thing. the jurors might not have seen it. The court might not have seen it. They might not have been submitting it for evidence, but it's out there. It's fucking somewhere. And that's the point. That's the point.
This jury that deliberated did not find sex trafficking when it came to Cassie Ventura. They also didn't find it when it came to Jane. And I want to ask you about Jane in a moment. But did it surprise you when it came to Cassie Ventura that they did not?
Yeah, Chet actually said one of the things I thought about this jury is how I wouldn't want to review those tapes. Oh, and this is why I think there is a conversation to be had about public servants, firefighters and police officers and other people who have to review tapes to prove evidence. Guys, someone's job out there is to watch assault tapes of children for CP stuff. Somebody's job is to pick up the dead bodies after a father's killed his family and suicided. Like, somebody's job is to go, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we forget. You want to talk about jobs that go, you know, the fact that we don't talk about mental health and the way we really need to with these jobs, like, someone's job is really to go out there and do, you know what I mean? Like, we don't think about it because we're so, it's probably not even a job you thought about doing, really. You probably, but somebody's got to do it. Someone's got to do it. It's just like such a devastating job. Like, those people need mental health support, Yeah.
Convict on sex trafficking.
No, I think it was a difficult thing to prove. And I think there was always some doubt, whether, because, I think what the judge says, it has to be forced. And I think the defense did prove.
The word forced is so difficult, but it doesn't have to look forced to be forced. So that's the deception of consent. Just because it looks like she's consenting doesn't mean she is, especially if everyone is on drugs.
They did show some messages where it didn't seem that it was forced.
Oh, her text messages.
The text
when she
messages.
talked about it.
Yeah.
That was really important to you to consider.
I think that was one aspect. Yes.
Did that make you feel that it was consensual?
It did seem like it. Yeah.
Talk to me about Jane.
Even in the videos and everything seemed very consensual.
Really?
Yeah.
How about with Jane? Obviously, she testified for several days, very emotional at times.
It was. Yeah.
What did you think of her credibility? Did you believe her?
I think it was very again, riveting, long testimony, and I did believe her, at least on some parts. Some parts were a little bit didn't add up as much. Seemed a little strange.
What part seemed strange to you?
One part for me that seemed a little strange was the night, I think, when Jane was in, when they had the fight.
Yeah.
It just, the timing seemed a little like you going from like one closet to another closet to it just, something didn't add up there.
How about the impact when you heard that her rent was being paid or her lawyer is being paid by the defendant? Did that surprise you?
That was surprising, yeah, and it was still being paid.
What did you think when you heard that?
Wow, it was surprising.
I want to ask you as well about, obviously I'm talking about Diddy as if I know him. Like, we know his name because he's, this very famous person. Did the fact that he was so famous, did that impact you in any way? Did you know him?
No, I did not know him.
Do you know his music at all?
No, I don't. I didn't really listen to his music.
So seeing him was just...
So this is interesting. Chat, if you guys are saying I'm riveting is weird, I think it's autism. It's like, I think he's trying to put emphasis by using language. Just maybe this is me overthinking it, but it feels like he's trying to say it was believable. It was, he's not being very compassionate with his language, but I think he's being very overly descriptive. Riveting is like excitement and wow, and I'm paying attention. But riveting is what you use for a movie you like. But riveting can sound not compassionate, so it confuses people. But I don't think he's saying I think he doesn't know a better word to use in a sense. I don't know though, because I think it's the right word in some context. But I think in this context, it feels dehumanizing. Do you know what I mean? Chet says, is he using riveting wrong? Because riveting usually means exciting and interesting. Well, no, but like I think it must have felt that way. I think it must have felt like riveting to be a part of something, because I hate to say it this way, but it must have felt that way being there. Like, it must have felt that way, but I think it is not compassionate. But I think it's the wrong word. I think it's the wrong word to use, but I'm not going to accuse him of being malicious, but I'm going to accuse him of being very human. And the dilemma with being very human is that you think things should look a particular way because that's how you're trained. When he says, I don't know Sean Diddy Combs, I don't know this bubble, I don't listen to rap, I don't know these people, I actually think it's kind of bad. You know, I actually think it's kind of bad that he doesn't know anything about the bubble. Because, like, what if he's just like a sex-repressed autist who's never had a girlfriend? What if we're just watching a virgin? What if we're watching a grown man who's never had sex before and now he's one of the jurors or one of the alternates? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know this man's history. This could be a virgin. You know what I mean? He could have no context for anything that he's seeing. He could be so ignorant to everything that he's viewing. Has no context, no bubble understanding. Like, trust me, they pick these jurors on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Chet says riveting was used 3 times so far. Yeah, so I'm going to assume he's anxious. Do you know what I mean? Because it's such a weird word to use, but also, no offense, like, not everybody has the same vocabulary. So I don't know, you know what I mean? So I think when people misuse the same word over and over again, it's probably because they're nervous. At least that's what I would do. But obviously, like, yeah, like, maybe that's what it is. I don't know, though. Maybe he's a malicious person who's trying to say this woman is a bitch, but he doesn't feel like that kind of a person so far. But listen to this section.
Very famous person. Did the fact that he was so famous, did that impact you in any way? Did you know him?
No, I did not know him.
Do you know his music at all?
No, I don't. I didn't really listen to his music.
So seeing him was just a
fun fact. I could not tell you a Diddy song. I don't know it. I never listened to Diddy. I mean, maybe I listened to Diddy without knowing I was listening to Diddy, but I was never a fan of Diddy, never listened to Diddy, can't tell you nothing about Diddy. Cassie, on the other hand, love Cassie. Used to rewatch her music videos on repeat. Okay? But Diddy, I genuinely feel so stupid because I'm like, if I've heard a Diddy song, I don't remember, but I'm sure I have. Isn't that crazy? And then you think about it and you're just like, oh, damn, like, Justin Bieber, like, but I know Diddy in the industry. I know Diddy and his history. I know Diddy and his beefs. I know Diddy and his connect. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Is like, okay, what jury is coming in? Do they know the context? I highly doubt they know anything about his feuds with other people. You know, Chess says more money, more problems is one of the Diddy songs I know. Okay, well, I think we all know the reference, at least. That's a good example. You know? I love you, chat. Chat says, okay, I had to do it. Riveting. Adjective, completely engrossing, compelling. I mean, that is her testimony was compelling. Compelling would have been a more compassionate word than riveting.
Stranger.
Pretty much. I mean, I know of him, and I know, but I don't really follow his music or the rap industry in general. So that might have been why I think a lot of the jurors, I think if you look at their backgrounds, I don't think they were.
Oh, and by the way, he was an alternate juror. He was not chosen to be on the jury, but he was considered. So who did they choose if not him? Do you know what I'm saying? If he's the guy they didn't choose, but he got close, who's the ones they chose? And that's why I want you to know, I want you to see this interview. I want you to know that even though he's an alternate, I guarantee you a lot of the people in that jury are similar. Okay? They're similar to him. And if this is his impression, his engagement with the topic, that's why I say, like, the justice system is not about justice. It's about who has the most convincing argument. It's about picking and choosing jurors that are easy to convince to your side.
They didn't follow this or that. I mean, that's probably why they were chosen. I was never expected to be chosen, to be honest.
Yeah? Well,
I wasn't even looking for this at all.
Who would be,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But let me ask you, the other jurors, when you would talk to them, I know you weren't allowed to deliberate at all in this, but when you talked to them, were they familiar with who he was? Did his celebrity status seem to impact them at all?
No, I don't think so, no. I think everyone was really waiting for the interpretation of the law. And
is that because you were confused about the case or because you just wanted to know your marching orders?
I think we wanted to know our marching orders and how we need to look at everything. You know, I think we were really, I think, at least for me, we want to be, and we are asked to be as impartial as possible. So we needed to know, you hear both sides of, one side, the other side, and it's very important to know what we're actually supposed to be ruling at and how we're supposed to be looking at it from the judge.
There was a juror who was.
So even in the way that he's speaking, he's being very impersonal about it, because this is like a professional interview. Even though you guys might be expecting something juicy, just a reminder that he's on CNN and she's interviewing him. So he's going to be professional, right? His answers are professional. They're very matter of fact. They are not in any way evoking feelings. He's not here as an activist. He's here to say that he was impartial and he followed the law, because that is what a juror is supposed to do. But we know people aren't impartial, and we know people have prejudice, and we know we have bias, and we know that a juror wants to follow the law, but the part is like, we can't separate from the fact that like we're people with feelings,
excused close to the end of the trial. What did you know about that and why?
We were told, what happened. I mean, I think someone had mentioned that it was, I think he lied about where he was from or something like that. But really, we were kind of kept in like isolation from like the whole day. Not really told much, told to not, follow any news or turn off everything. Don't talk to anyone.
Yeah, you guys are correct in the chat. He was there. He saw Diddy. He saw Cassie. He didn't he was there. He saw the whole thing. He just wasn't on the final jury, right? But he did see everything and he did take all the notes. So, I mean, they didn't know to the very last minute, right, who was going to be on the jury. So he has all the information. And that just adds to maybe how he's presenting himself here.
Talk among yourselves about the case, which we followed. We really followed the judge's instructions. At least I did.
And yes, he said at the beginning, to answer your question, chat, he can understand why the jury voted the way that they did, and he would have done the same, because the requirement of a jury is to it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, meaning they have to be 1,000% sure beyond a reasonable doubt that he sex trafficked these girls, and they don't feel like that was proven to them. The evidence was proven to them, right? And some people like to cite on caution, some people don't. And we want a little bit of both. We don't want a jury that is like, well, fuck you, I don't have the evidence, but I'm going to accuse this person. But we don't want to have a jury that says the evidence isn't enough. We want the right amount of evidence. So we have to be careful. Like, we have to be very careful with like wanting a jury that's like excited to convict somebody. And also we want to be careful on having a jury that's too afraid to convict somebody, right? So we want balance. And the question is, how are we going to find that? How are we going to do that?
Too.
So when that person, when that person was no longer in the chair after seeing them there for 7 weeks on end, or however many weeks it was in at that point, did you think it was odd? Did you have concerns?
No. I mean, that's why they have, they call 18 people, because then they knew it was a long case, and there's probably going to be someone's going to get sick or someone's going to drop out. So that's why. So,
would you have wanted to hear Diddy testify? Would it have made a difference to you?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
It wouldn't have made a difference because it would have added to your understanding, or because you'd heard enough?
I think we heard enough. I don't know if it would have helped or hindered. I haven't really thought about that as much. Yeah. But I think it was really helpful, again, in the end, at least for what we were looking forward to, what I was looking forward to the most, was just the 61-page judge instructions of how we're supposed to be charged the law.
They did find him guilty.
That is the most autistic thing I've ever heard out loud. That's why I think he's autistic. I think he has a special, like, the way he said that is like very neurodivergent to me.
Of those transportation to engage in prostitution charges, the prosecution was being very sarcastic and laughing at the idea that these men were just being paid for their time. How did you see that statement?
You mean the defense?
Mm-hmm. Well, the prosecution said that, well, yes, you're right. The defense said that they were being paid for the time. The prosecution was mocking that. Who did you believe?
No, I think the evidence to show that there was the transportation of prostitution, I think was overwhelming, and that's why the jury found him guilty on those two counts.
If you had been,
so he said, see how he said it was overwhelming, like it was way obvious. So they did that, which is good. We want to decriminalize sex work, but we also want to make it impossible for you to abuse a sex worker because you feel entitled to their bodies. So the dilemma with finding him on prostitution, but not on the abuse of the prostitute, is the problem, right? So they got him for sex work charges or hiring a sex worker, but they didn't get him for abusing the sex workers, which I feel like is implicit in the admittance of drugging them for ongoing days at a time.
The prosecution, not only they showed the hotel records, the bank records, the flight information. For that, I think that they proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
If for some reason you were to ever talk to Diddy, what would you tell him about how you saw this trial?
To be honest, I really wouldn't want to talk to him or anyone associated with that. I just wanted to kind of tell my side of the story, but I really wouldn't want to,
He said, Diddy, do not slide into the DMs. He said, stay out my DMs, Diddy. He said, please, for the love of God. Honestly, I'm surprised he showed his face because there is a rumor that like jurors should be afraid for their lives. And I don't want to play into conspiracy theories, but everybody knows Diddy has a history. And it's just like, I'm kind of surprised he even put his face out there like that. But I wonder if there'd be a reason, maybe because of his job or his reputation or something else.
Associate with him or any of the people that are with him.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
It's about the video from the Intercontinental Hotel that you saw
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I should have done a trigger warning. Trigger warning. My bad.
Was it? Did you see it?
Sometimes they did it like frame by frame by frame.
What do you think of that? Did you see it enough? Too much? Too little? What?
I mean, it was a very bad video. I think they showed it enough. I mean, they tried to.
Bro, this was the video. This was the guy. So, watching men on a radio show joke about, oh, I want my time with Cassie. I would have been on a freak off. She was consenting. Like, what does consent look like if this is the relationship you're in? What could consent even look like? What could consent even possibly look like in a relationship like that? I just don't even understand why we're talking about like what she consented to. Consented to what?
To show it both sides and
Did it make a difference to you in the actual charges that you would have had to deliberate over? Because he wasn't charged with.
He wasn't charged with domestic violence. No.
Did that surprise you?
No, because I don't think domestic violence is a federal crime. So.
Did it cloud the way you saw the rest of the charges?
I thought it was because the statute of limitation was over and he couldn't get, they couldn't press charges against it.
Just by seeing that video?
No, I think we looked at just what we were supposed to be, what the judge had said we were supposed to look at, and then based off of the evidence that was presented to us, they ruled in that way.
Do you think he should go to prison?
That's for the judge to decide. I mean, he was found guilty on both counts. So we're the sentencing is not up to us, and not up to me. It's up to the judge, who was we were all impressed with the judge and how he was. So that the jury, I can't speak for the jury because I was an alternate, but I think we all really much liked the judge on this case. We found him to be very fair, very stern. He was no nonsense. But, the way he conducted himself, at least from what we saw, because again, we only saw, the beginning and they always.
Chat says Cassie was awarded financially for her retroactive sexual abuse civil case. These were federal criminal crimes, though.
When they had sidebars, they would have the white noise, so couldn't actually hear what's being discussed. But we were always impressed with the judge.
Hundreds of pages of notes.
Man, he really likes that judge, bro. So he seemed very matter of fact to me, which is why I thought his interview was very interesting, because obviously he didn't come to do this interview in like hey girls, today we're going to talk about how I'm mad at the patriarchy. It was more like, this is what happened. I actually appreciated the professionalism of it, because I do think it's very tempting to have an opinion piece, but I think it's really important that we understand that this was very serious. It deserves to be talked about seriously. And he's not our friend. He was working as a civil servant, showing up as a juror, whether he was picked or not. I know he was an alternate, but the fact that he was showing up to be responsible means that I appreciate that he took it very seriously. But also it's important that he spoke out, because I think it's important to recognize like who your juror is, what it's like if you're ever in that position, and why it can be so scary. It could just be so scary, you know? Okay, guys, that's what I actually want to talk about today. Thank you, Chessa Spoons, in the chat for Brittany. Thank you so much. That's all I want to talk about. I want to use that to wrap it around to the end, that we continue to make excuses for the bad people in our lives because we are in many ways compassionate and empathetic, but do not let that be a crutch. Let that be a strength to hold people accountable instead of continuing to make excuses for bad behavior. And remember that the way people talk about this story, the way people talk about these predator men, the way people make excuses for their bad behavior while slut shaming the women, pay attention. Pay attention. Because that's what I saw come out of the Shia LaBeouf conversation, is a desire to see him succeed again while still remaining to slut shame the women. Yeah. You know, Chet says, I have a question for the women. If a man says you look like your dad, would you take that as a compliment or would you find it offensive? Do we look like our dads? Some of us look like our dads. I look like my mom, but some of us look like our dads. And that's just genetics, baby. That's just genetics. And you're welcome. Okay? You're welcome. You know, with that said, what a note to end on. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys. I'm going to get the podcast out on the podcast channel. Please go check that out. It will take me a while more, but it's good and it's worth it. Okay? It's worth it. How to actually be a creative full time. If it's if it's meant to be, you know, if it's meant to be. Okay. Some Samantha Dragonati on our way out. I'll go ahead and see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.